channel where the dough don't rise. Broken bakers here with the sarcastic eyes. From Danish pastries to courtroom crime, where the spelling's a mess, but the humor's prime. Co-defendants taking the stand, with wine moms laughing, glass in hand. Mods like Marissa and Valhalla too. Irish and whiskey keep the chat in view. It's trial tribulations with a sprinkle of wit. Chats popping off, yeah, they never quit. Jamie's got the deals and the beauty hacks. Dollar store glam keeping us on track. So come for the crime, stay for the snark. Broken bakers baking up a legal spark. Mo hops in with spicy takes. Jemima's got the docs, Farrell brings the shakes. Brandon keeps it wild, Iron Rabbit keeps it chill. Together they're the dream team, streaming the thrill. With courtroom chaos and dry witty flair, we're roasting defendants, cause life's not fair. Grab your wine, your snacks, and settle in. Chat's the real star, let the fun begin. It's trial tribulations with a sprinkle of wit. Chats popping off, yeah, they never quit. Jamie's got the deals and the beauty hacks. Dollar store glam keeping us on track. So come for the crime, stay for the snark. Broken bakers baking up a legal spark. Broken Baker streaming, so don't you miss, where courtrooms and sarcasm meet Danish bliss. Mods and chat, we're keeping it clever. True crime and dry humor now and forever.
Hey, how you all doing? Welcome back to the afternoon in the Slender Man case. And someone said, what the hell time is? That's 2:25. It's the same time. What happened? You had to get off early. Everyone recommends her, recommend that she will be released to some kind of lesser institute. She's not to be released, but the hospital she's in right now, Winnebago Mental Health Institute, don't have any more treatment that could benefit her. So they are recommending that she will be released to another institution where she can get more help adapting back into normal society. So far, everyone has recommended the same thing. That's the gist of all of it. Is everyone saying that apparently over the last 6 months she has really improved and has become cognizant about her mental health problems. She's well medicated. She enjoys the highest level of freedom you can have at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. So their recommendation is she will be sent to another housing unit that has more options for her. I always know this chat will not be evil idiots. Well, some will be. And I have a possible new angel for Saturday, Stabulay. Sue has said she's done with the Cox, so she is ready to join for a Saturday stream if she's not hampered by an ice storm. We had made a compromise. If Sue can't be there, I will hire a dog worker and ask him to swear more than he usually does. Then we kind of get the same thing as Sue. Yeah, that confused llama just standing there. People are cheering about LA fires. Americans. Well, that's stupid. Did I read somewhere 11,000 houses have burned down? Still don't have the fire contained. You can do the political victim blaming, or not victim blaming, do the political blaming when this is done. Right now, you have tons of people who has lost their house, lost their livelihoods. So focus on that instead of all that other BS is what I would recommend. But what do I know about politics? I've not heard one person cheering about LA fire. I heard one person today, actually, a streamer I really like. I like his takes, but it seemed like it was one of those, I'm just going to be edgy and blame this on politics. Save people's houses, save people's lives, and then you go get angry at the politicians after. They're done for the season. I'm not done with them. No, Sue can't keep her hands off them, I've heard. 7, that's amazing that it's not worse than that, to be honest. Because I have watched the expert covering these fires, and it's absolutely crazy to see. 165,000 people evacuated. That's crazy. Hey, Erica, wie geht's? So do I. It could be fun. Yeah, but it's really easy to sit in your house and your heat is working, your belly is full, and then you can sit and say, well, look at what they got for voting that way. I don't give 2 cents about how people voted when their house is burning down, because I'm pretty sure no matter if you voted red or blue, your house isn't fireproof. And I know there's a lot of blame going around about grants being taken away and hiring practices, but what I've seen is firefighters fighting for dear life, and those are the people you should think about right now, because they will have to suffer with all the chemical burns, all the soot particles that they will be inhaling right now, fighting, because that's the beauty about firefighters, soldiers. They don't give a damn who you voted for. They will just go out and do their job. When the job is done, when everything is settled down, then you blame whoever needs to be blamed. On news chats there, yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, that they still, after how long has it been now? 3 days, have 0% contained. It's we don't have anything like that because we don't have the winds condition that can make it, but we have a big what do you call it in English? I think you call it moat. No,
You can hear us in the media room?
I'm not sure what it is you call it in English, but it's out where there's just very low vegetation and it get dry. And I remember when my dad was a firefighter, and they would be called to go over there and help fight these fires, because they would just spread like wildfire, because it's just a lot of low bushes and it's very dry, and because it's sandy earth, so the fire could hide in the ground. And when my dad came home, yeah, that was horrible, because they could be done in one area and thinking, okay, everything is done, and then because the fire hit within the ground, it could just pop up again behind them, and that was horrible. We had a lot of problems with that earlier. We haven't had big fires like that in in many years. DOD is sending 10 Navy choppers with mortar bucket things. I hope something helps fast. Yeah. And again, yeah, kind of like scrubland. Yeah. The problem is, I think, and it's kind of the same problem we had in Spain when they had the big flooding. Right now, there's a lot of things saying, oh, we need to open up all the waterways and tear down the reservoirs, because then the fish can go frolic in the rivers. But the problem will then be, Well, when you have these major catastrophes, you don't have the water, you don't have the pressure, or like they had in Greece, where they had too much water at one point, you don't have the ways to dam it. And as long as people want to live where people want to live, things like this will just escalate. And I don't know how the building code is in California, because when we as Danes see all these plots of just houses burned down, everyone over here has houses built of concrete or bricks, so they won't burn the same way. So it's weird to us to see how everything's just flat after. But again, it's a hot environment. It's an earthquake zone, so you need the flexibility in the houses. It's devastating to look at. It looks like a war zone. Might be a rare chance the Rams game is played here in Arizona on Monday. Could be cool. My voice is a little. I think I'm getting a cold. Yeah, and again, and if you're diverting money and people, let's talk about that. Let's do an inquiry after and see, is it because you wanted to show you were doing the right thing, or was it to save money? There's always enough blame to go around. But right now, the biggest problem is getting people's houses, as many as you can, saved. That's the big problem. And then leave politics to the politicians. They like that kind of stuff. The rest of us should just pray that as many as possible is saved, as much as possible is saved, so it doesn't burn down the entire area. It's horrifying to watch those firestorms. And when I was deployed, I was a firefighter, and we had to go help an American radio base because we had a forest fire on a mountain, and we had to drive up the mountain while the fire was on both sides. Trust me, it's not fun. So I have the deepest respect for people out there fighting the fires right now, because right now it's not a job. It's
We'll call a record again on
yeah.
State versus Geyser, same case number and same appearances. We last ended before lunch with the attorney Cox
Exactly,
being prepared
Tash.
to call an additional witness, and I'm assuming that was
Yeah,
Ms.
terrible.
Portman.
Yes,
And so she's prepared to testify
Hey,
at this
Jojo.
time.
yes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Portman, has she been called through?
If the rich liberals swear as much as a longshoreman or more, you can bring them on Saturday and sue if she can't join the show. I don't care if it's a longshoreman or rich liberal, as long as they can swear more than sue, we need them on. Hey, sweet tooth fairy, been a second. Yeah, especially in those conditions where it's just blowing off.
Yeah, Miss Lisa Portman, are you with us?
Who's this Michael guy? Is that her husband? Who are these people? What, if any, are these people? Weird people just sitting watching court all day? That should be illegal.
Hello, Ms. Portman, are you there? You're muted.
Okay, is that better?
That is terrific. Much better. I can
Okay.
hear you and I can see you. So thank you. Now you're being called as a witness today, so I'm going to ask you to stand, raise your right hand, and our clerk will swear you in.
I'm happy I'm not called for court, because pants are prison and it wouldn't look good with me, Donald, dogging it in front of the judge.
Raise your right hand. The clerk will swear you in.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah, it'll be
Yes.
fine.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. And then if you'd, once you're seated and comfortable, state your full name and spell your last name.
Lisa Portman, Portmann.
No, the Michael fellow was in the background of this lady's camera before he came in, and he looked and they were talking together, and then he walked out. I'm pretty sure that's the guy. Wasn't that the guy in the Carhartt jumper? I think that's just court watchers like us. Why they're on camera? Schön ist es.
All right, thank you, Ms. Portman. Then I'll turn to Attorney Cotton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Portman. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
What is your job at, where do you work?
Winnebago Mental Health.
What do you do at Winnebago?
I am a treatment social worker.
What is a treatment social worker?
I am a master's level clinical social worker who provides treatment to patients who are civil and forensic patients at the facility,
So you
both
have,
individually and in group sessions.
okay, so you have a number of patients you work with.
I do.
Are you familiar with Morgan Geyser?
I am.
How are you familiar with her?
She is one of the patients assigned to me for individual therapy.
And so you work with her. Is it fair to say that you're her therapist?
I am.
How long have you been providing therapy with Ms. Geyser?
I started therapy with her in, I believe, March of 2024.
Does it continue to this day?
It does.
And are you a one-on-one counselor with her, or is this a group setting, or is it both?
I do both.
So Morgan is,
No, they have nothing to do. The lady testifying is from the other people have been sitting there all day. Someone said they are court auditors or whatever that is. It's just people who sit and watch this courtroom all day on Zoom. Imagine being that weird watching a courtroom all day. Week. That sounds weird. Hey, Skybell.
is this a requirement of hers that as part of her treatment plan at Winnebago, she's required to participate in therapy?
She has a treatment schedule for group therapy, group treatments. That is typically a requirement. Individual therapy is assigned as needed, as desired.
Okay, so as the patient wants to do it, he or she can do it.
Yes.
So since you've been working with Morgan, is she an active participant in group?
Yes.
What is she like?
We are people in the gallery, technically, yes. That's the same thing. We're watching in court from afar. So it would be like sitting in a courtroom. The good thing is you can be on TwitTwat, you can be ordering your super pants right now and yelling at Jamie.
Morgan is very outgoing in group. She's engaged. She's supportive. She's inquisitive.
Yeah, I agree that corrupt and incompetent politicians should be yelled at, but right now you shouldn't yell at people who lost their house or laugh at people who lost their house just because they had incompetent politicians. That's my take on it. People laughing and saying, "Well, you voted for this." Well, still, let's wait with that joke till houses isn't burning. James Woods lost his house. I'm pretty sure he didn't vote for them.
Group, how many people are in a group treatment setting? Is it just 2 people, 5, 10, or does it really vary depending on the day?
I didn't know what that is.
I would say it varies. At least 4, could be up to 10 or 11.
And are people encouraged to discuss their own personal issues in group? Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, each group has a different theme, a different direction, a different directive for the group. So different skills that are worked on, and each patient, I would say, is encouraged to apply the information that they're getting or share personally or apply it to themselves to their comfort level.
How long have you been employed at Winnebago?
I've worked at Winnebago since June of 2011.
Okay, so about 13 and a half years there. Okay, and in that whole time you've been employed there, have you been a therapist or a treatment social worker? Has that been your role there?
I've done treatment in my role.
Morgan is the woman who is having the hearing today to see if she should be put in a more open institution. She is the girl who pled guilty by way of mental defect, I think it was, when she stabulated her friend 18 or 19 times back in 2014 when she was 12 years old because she was afraid of Slender Man. Remember, there was all of that Slender Man going around back then.
The title of treatment social worker started in October of 23. However, treatment has been part of the role. I'd say primarily before the treatment social worker title, I would go with a case management title.
Okay. When you see Morgan in group, does she attend on time?
Yes.
Does she get along with her peers?
Yes.
Would you say that she supports her peers, meaning does she provide constructive feedback or thoughts?
Yes.
What about completing her assignments? Does Morgan get assignments and complete them?
They were classmates, and she and another girl who has been released lured a classmate into the woods and stabulated her. Then they said they would get help and left her there, and she crawled to a road and was found by a bicyclist. She was very lucky that she escaped with her life because they were very nearly clipped her artery.
Yes, she does.
What about tense moments that arise in group? Are there ever tense moments in group therapy?
Yes.
The first one has gotten out, and all the medical professionals are recommending that she's getting out of the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, but into another facility where she can be monitored.
There are, and she navigates them safely, appropriately, successfully. There's never been any concerns with her.
Do you have any concerns more broadly about Morgan's ability to navigate stressful situations as you've been interacted with her over the last 10, 11 months?
No, I would say she's highly capable of navigating stressful moments that come up quite frequently in the Winnebago environment. So she navigates them, she processes them in individual therapy, and she can compartmentalize what is happening, bring that to therapy, process it, and adjust as needed
When you
if she feels the need to do so.
Thank you. And you provide individual therapy to Morgan as well, so one-on-one.
I do.
Do you feel that Morgan is open with you when you have your one-on-one sessions, or is she more of a hold back, closed down kind of person?
No, she definitely is very, very open. She uses a therapy session really well as a place to open up and process and cope and get information. She really takes full advantage of the individual session to do the work that she needs to, coming to therapy prepared to work, and does her work there.
Do you feel that Morgan is when you contrast her against other people who are at a mental health facility, do you feel that she's more of an independent person or the opposite of that?
She independently did quite a bit of work and would bring the effects of that to therapy. So I would say independently has the insight to know what she needed to work on. So yes, I would say she's pretty independent and capable.
Have you seen any in the time that you've worked with Morgan, specifically since March of 2024, have you seen any signs of violence by Morgan?
No,
Has she expressed any violent thoughts or ideology to you?
no,
And just so the record is clear, Ms. Geyser has given you permission to speak about her medical treatment that you're providing, okay?
yes,
So, and I know these individual sessions are private sessions. It's almost akin to a doctor-patient privilege setting, isn't it?
yes,
And in those private sessions, do you encourage Morgan to open up with you in those private sessions?
yes,
About any thoughts or fears or concerns that she might have that within her head?
yes.
Has Morgan expressed anything that's raised alarms at all with you during the time that you've treated her about being violent towards others or self-harming herself?
No,
What about damage to property? Do you, obviously, well, let me take a step back. When you're working with someone in a one-on-one setting, you're listening to what they tell you, but you're also looking at the visual cues that you observe, aren't you?
yes,
Whether a person is smiling or crying or having a panic attack, you're trained to look for those things, aren't you?
yes.
And when you work with Morgan in treatment, does it seem that she has do the two of you ever discuss her plans for the future?
Yes, not in specific detail, but just ideology, like what might it look like, or what might be problems she might face, or what resources, where would she go if she ran into struggles, just kind of general information, or extrapolating the experiences at Winnebago and how might we run into this in the future and what might we do. So that type of planning, not specific detailed planning.
Okay. Does Winnebago have conditional release teams?
Yes.
What is a conditional release team?
Well, I would say it's the treatment team in general that she already works with. That's who would be on her conditional release team. That team would connect with the outside team, the team in the state of Wisconsin, who are there to work together to collaborate to put together her plan.
So the people who know her best on the inside, the treatment team, will work with the outside resources for conditional release purposes. That's the idea.
Correct. Yes.
And you, as somebody who's been employed at Winnebago for going on 14 years, have you been involved in conditional release planning before
I have.
for clients or patients, if you will?
Yes.
And that's common, isn't it? That you because you work with a person, that you would be assigned to their team to help facilitate community integration.
Correct. Yes.
There's been some talk in this hearing, ma'am, about treatment homes or group homes. There are group homes in the state of Wisconsin. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that you and Ms. Geyser have discussed as part of the advanced planning what that might look like, her living in a group home and her relying on her therapists as future resources?
Yes.
Do you find that Morgan exhibits resistance to the idea of moving into a group home, or does she seem to understand that that's a logical next step?
I believe she understands it's a logical next step.
And hypothetically, if Judge Boren were to approve conditional release, what would you and the conditional release team do once you receive once you receive the green light, so to speak? What would be the next step for you guys?
And the next step would be a meeting would be scheduled with her treatment team at Winnebago and the outpatient, the resource. I believe
If Brandon doesn't get a new profile called Mailing Naps, something's wrong. That's a great name.
is the agency is called WCS. We would schedule a meeting to sit down and discuss what are Morgan's needs.
We haven't heard anything from the victim. We don't know if she will be talking or her parents will talk on her behalf.
What are Morgan's recommendations? What does she need? What is our opinion of what she needs to be successful in the community? And that would start the conversation, and they would.
Yeah, but they haven't talked in this setting. They have released a statement, but they haven't talked in court. So that would be, I don't know if they will be allowed to talk about it.
Get together and start working on a plan for her.
And when you've been involved in this in other cases, does Winnebago identify the specific group home before conditional release is approved, or do you wait for conditional release to be approved, then you seek out the group home?
We don't actually seek out the group home, the WCS would, and it's not until conditional release is granted that we're able to start that process of planning.
Okay, so once approval is given for conditional release, then you coordinate with WCS and the other resources in the state to make sure there's a suitable facility.
Yes,
And does that get presented to the judge as you understand it?
yes,
Okay, so then the judge decides whether or not that it seems suitable in his opinion.
correct.
Since you've worked with Morgan, strike that 1 minute, please. Just a couple more questions, Ms. Portman. You're aware of the fact that Ms. Geyser sought conditional release 6 to 8 months ago, and are you not?
Yes,
And you were her therapist at that time, right?
yes.
How did Ms. Geyser process the rejection, if you will, or the denial of her conditional release?
She accepted this. This is what she has to do. She has to continue to move on. And she brought it to therapy, and she held her head up, and she continued to move forward and say, I just have to keep doing the next right thing. Really, she handled it very well.
Those are all my questions. Thank you, Ms. Portman.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination.
Ms. Portman, you'd agree that Morgan's very intelligent, correct?
Yes,
And you did not work with her prior to March of 2024?
I may have had her in group sessions. I did not work with her in individual therapy before March of 2024.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further direct?
No, Your Honor, she's not under subpoena.
All right, then, Ms. Portman, thanks for being here to testify. That'll complete your testimony then. So have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll end the Zoom contact. Then Attorney Cotton, further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Does Ms. Geyser's arrest then
Yes.
state have any rebuttal evidence or testimony?
No, Judge, no rebuttal.
All right, then all evidence is closed. Everything is in. The exhibits have been received. The exhibits are the CVs and the reports of each of the 3 doctors. The one item that's been referred to is a November 7, 2024 letter from Ms. Parnell. It's not an exhibit, but it's been referred to, so I have it and I've read it. So it's just clear that what the status of that is. So that means we're at the stage to proceed to argument. How do the parties wish to proceed today? I'm prepared to hear argument this afternoon.
Okay.
So you need a little bit of time to,
I'm prepared to go forward, Judge.
all right, Attorney Cotton?
Yes, we are too.
All right, well then, let's go forward. And I'll hear from Attorney Zatakowicz. Keeping in mind the state has the burden of proof.
Judge, I guess I'm fairly easily prepared to go forward because.
Could you use your microphone, please?
Yes, please.
Sure. Is that better?
It should
No.
be, we'll see.
I'm prepared to go forward because preparing my argument was really pretty easy. I have in my hand, Judge, a transcript of your decision the last time we were here, and I have the Randall case. And that's really my argument, Judge. I think in looking at the court's analysis of this back in April of 2024, there's not really anything different here, in my opinion, in terms of how the analysis comes out. And I mentioned the Randall case, obviously, because what is different now, we do have 3 doctors all saying that you should grant conditional release here, but as the court pointed out last time, and as Randall indicates, the court is not bound by the conclusion that the experts have reached, even if those opinions are uncontroverted. So certainly the court has to make up its own mind as to whether or not the evidence at this point indicates a substantial risk of bodily harm to herself or to others. And last time, Judge, you started your analysis looking at the fact.
I'm just saying it. It's really weird sitting here looking at 2 people looking at me. This feels like some weird Inception thing where, because on my StreamYard screen, I can see myself and I have a picture. Yeah, like you can see it on the screen. I'm that little picture and these 2 people, and I feel like they're looking at me. Can you look away? I get anxiety when you're looking at me, and stop being so condescending. Ugh.
Actors as they're.
Yeah, you look at me all day, but I don't see you. It's weird when they're just looking back at you, because I can imagine all of you naked. That's the way I keep talking all the time. It's because I just imagine all of you naked while I'm streaming. So it's not so terrifying. But the lady on the right looks like she is picturing me naked and is a little disappointed in what she's seeing.
Set out in 971.17 sub 4.
Oh, that's what's Tinder tab.
And after it indicates the court shall grant the petition unless it finds by clear and convincing evidence the
Hey,
person
Yo.
poses significant risk of bodily harm.
I know you're on the West Coast, but if you're ever up early on a Saturday, I need you on as an angel. Remind me of that. If you can get up early.
Harm to himself or herself, the statute indicates the court may consider without limitation because of enumeration.
She's not liking what she sees,
Number
but
one, the nature
she's
and
keep
circumstances
looking.
of the crime. That's where you started your analysis last time, Judge, and it's the state's position that this offense alone is enough to demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that there's a substantial risk here to others and to herself. The court pointed out that.
Yeah, I said I know it's early. I do time zones. I wrote that in my Tinder profile. But if she's up early one Saturday, I'll give her time. It's not tonight or tomorrow. Saturday will be Sue, or an angry liberal, or an angry longshoreman. Maybe an angry liberal longshoreman.
This was a brutal attempted murder. The effort to stab somebody 19 times. But then she's not dead, but then they leave. Of course, with the idea or thinking that she'll bleed to death. You know, when I think about this, Judge, I can't help but thinking most people in society are not capable of committing the offense that Morgan Geyser committed. Most people are not capable of taking a knife and plunging it into someone else. One time, Morgan, as we know, did it 19 times. And then left this victim to bleed to death and walked away. So again, the state's position is the offense alone is enough, Judge, to find that there is a significant risk. I know Dr. Collins indicated that certainly the underlying offense is a factor. I think it has to be a huge factor when you're tasked to consider whether or not she represents a risk of substantial bodily injury. The court then went on to analyze the situation by
Let's talk.
looking at her mental history and present mental condition. And I think that also is still, Judge, very much up in the air. And I'm not saying it's necessarily up in the air because she's experiencing psychotic symptoms or she's delusional. Those things aren't present. But as the court indicated last time in your decision, Judge, we still don't really know why Morgan Geyser committed this offense. And we've had different reasons provided over the years. The court pointed out the diagnosis initially was, or the rationale was Slender Man. And the diagnosis was schizophrenia. Then we have Morgan indicating at some point that I believe it was shortly before our last hearing in April of 24, sometime in 2023, that she faked all of these hallucinations. Really, as you indicated, really the groundwork for the schizophrenia diagnosis, and she made it up. Then the explanation, I guess, shifts from Slender Man to trauma related from sexual abuse by her father. And the sexual abuse is used, I guess, to go two different routes. One, the trauma from that was such that she lived in this fantasy world, or the trauma was such that she felt her only way out was to commit an offense as horrendous as our hearing in April of 2024.
No, the audio is way worse over there.
Perhaps is this and be removed from the situation. We're
I'm so happy today. Will you hug me, Valhalla?
not really sure which of those two reasons is at play here, but that was the explanation offered. And now apparently she's backed off the claim that she made this all up. And now, again, I think we're in a position where we really don't understand it. In looking at the doctor's reports regarding this, I guess I would first go to
No, because they zoomed in on the screen with the zoom on.
page 4 of Dr. Robbins' report, where he tries to address this and indicates
This is closing arguments for the state. He said, I don't want to say anything other, and then he's been talking for 20 minutes.
in the middle of the first paragraph on that page, I believe the only reasonable explanation is that either, he uses the word either. So the only reasonable explanation is one of two. He offers two. Again, we don't know which it is, but he offers two, indicating that she did experience psychotic symptoms, or much more likely, her fantasy was so powerful, she came to believe it was real. And for multiple reasons, I assume he's talking about afterwards, particularly not wanting to see herself as evil following the events. She had a hard time letting go of it. But it really doesn't offer an explanation about her fantasy being so powerful she came to believe it. I guess that's saying that she really felt that Slender Man was going to get her or her family, and she had to offer up this sacrifice to him. But he also said at the same time, it could be that she was experiencing psychotic symptoms.
Now, what page of Dr. Robbins' report are you on?
That is page 4 of Dr. Robbins'
All right.
report, the middle of the paragraph on top.
I see it. Very
Not clear or
good.
sure which one of those it is. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I see it. I see where you're reading from.
Okay.
I think they said her schizophrenia wasn't the problem anymore, but she's on the spectrum or something like that. Or it was controlled, her schizophrenia. So, but now they're talking more about her being on the spectrum.
In looking at page 7 of Dr. Lundbaum's report, and this is the last paragraph at the bottom of page 7, in contrast to her previous self-report, Ms. Geyser denied she ever feigned symptoms of psychosis. So now she's saying she didn't make up these symptoms. But Ms. Geyser says, rather, until my late teens, I thought I could make imaginary friends real. They existed in my mind, but they weren't in front of me. When clarifying her previous statement that she feigned psychiatric illness, she acknowledged that it has been difficult to understand her illness and circumstances due to her age when the index offense occurred, and significant changes in her symptoms/experiences over time. That still doesn't give us any explanation. And it goes on to say, while denying that she intentionally fabricated mental health impairments, again, in contrast to what she was saying in 2023, Morgan said, it was easier to say I was pretending. Part of the problem is how young I was. I didn't really understand the severity of what happened until I was about 14.
Thank you, Brandon, for gifting 5 membership to Just Another Aussie. Mailing naps. Brittany, Eddie, Robin. So especially congratulations to Just Another Aussie and Mailing Naps. Mailing Naps who just started hanging out on this side. Remember to say thank you to Brandon for being this generous.
She made further comments suggesting her difficulty discerning fantasy from reality during her adolescence. In combination with periods of dissociation, she acknowledged breaks in her reality attachment. Again, that doesn't offer, and I haven't really seen anything in the doctor's reports that offer an explanation of what she understands now as the reason for her being involved in this offense. In Dr. Collins's report, I guess, on page 31, in the 6th paragraph that begins, in a meeting with social services staff on July 22nd, 2024. In that paragraph, it's stated, he, now referring to Morgan, given the gender situation, he can recall the fantasy life he used, both prior to and since hospitalization, as a way to cope and manage with reality, but has since come to believe that this was not schizophrenia, but rather a coping strategy used to keep him safe from the external threats in the environment. Ms. Geyser acknowledged the use of the fantasy world to conceptualize his experiences following his psychiatric hospitalization. The social worker wrote, he consistently has been using the therapy time appropriately to process and cope with the stressors and questions and pain and grief. He is doing a great job. But again, there's no explanation offered or no understanding or indication that Morgan understands why this offense happened. On page 37 of Dr. Collins's report, in the second paragraph on that page, Dr. Collins indicates, while it is this examiner's opinion to a reasonable degree of professional certainty that facts weigh in favor of Ms. Geyser's petition and placement on conditional release at this juncture, I also recognize considerations which may give pause. The issue of Ms. Geyser's diagnostic enigma is one such consideration. Ms. Geyser now reports that she has never experienced auditory hallucinations or psychotic symptoms otherwise. It certainly seems, Judge, that prior to our hearing in April of 2024, that perhaps Ms. Geyser felt this court may be more inclined to release her if she claimed she had never had these psychotic symptoms, if she indicated she made them all up in an attempt to convince the court that she was never schizophrenic and therefore she's no longer dangerous. Now, this time, and she admitted that she went through with the hearing last time, even though 2 doctors said no, she went through with the hearing because she wanted to know what the court's position was and why the court might think conditional release was not appropriate. And after getting your decision in April of 2024,
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for 5 months.
we now kind of have her going back somewhat and saying, well, yeah, maybe I did have imaginary friends, and I don't see that she ever comes back and says, I lied about making it all up. But she seems to no longer say that she made it all up. She's acknowledging it somewhat. But again, we don't have any clear answers whatsoever, Judge, as to what went on, why she committed this offense. We have, I believe it was Dr. Lundbaum who testified, and maybe it's in all 3 doctors seem to indicate that these doctors all believe that the schizophrenic diagnosis was correct. But it certainly is unusual that someone who is schizophrenic is taken off of antipsychotic medication and any such psychotic symptoms
2 weeks.
disappear and have not come back. So we really don't have explanations for any of that. It's all still up in the air. And in my opinion, is additional evidence that she represents a danger to herself and others. And I know that was a large part of the court's concern back in April of 2024. The court at various points touched on her credibility, and at page 125 of the transcript, Judge, you indicated the credibility of the reporter is critical to what assessments are made, how people, how professionals, how mental health professionals make decisions. They're critical to how legal people make decisions. The credibility of the reporter is paramount. And I still think there are large questions of credibility here. The other area the court touches on in its analysis relates to the other factors that are listed in 971.17 sub 4 sub D, considerations revolving around where the person will live, how the person will support him or herself, what arrangements are available to ensure access to and the person will take necessary medications, and arrangements possible for treatment beyond medication. We've heard a lot about, well, we think a halfway house or a group home is the next logical step. And it was testified to by Ms. Parnell, which I found very interesting, when she said that the Department of Health Services and the Department of Corrections, in my opinion, they have this backwards because it's not consistent with the law. The law lists these things as things the court needs to consider.
I'm sorry, I'm not really commenting because it's really hard to hear what he's saying. But that's the gist of what his argument is, and it sounds plausible that because they claim she's highly intelligent, and again, she keeps changing her pattern, maybe to try and manipulate them. But and we have seen in other cases where shrinks or social workers are duped by defendants to believe that, oh, we can help them. And I have a little, I don't know, I have a tiny bit of that. And again, that someone mentioned her gender dysphoria, but that just came around now. That's changed in the last 6 months as well. Is that another way of trying to manipulate it? Again, I'm not a professional, but it just seems like, and that's the thing with having these hearings every 6 months. You can learn what, oh, this is what the judge listens to. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And if she's intelligent, and I have no way of assessing her mental illnesses, but we know people sometimes can be very manipulative and can adapt to play a role that would help them. Then I don't know. I'm kind of agreeing with the prosecutor. We never heard her being remorseful or anything. She just acknowledged that she had been doing stuff to try to seem sick, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe no. I don't know.
In making a conditional release decision, and Ms. Parnell testified that, well, they don't go through all the paperwork to look at various group homes or placements or provide any of that information at this stage because they don't want to put that work in and have the court deny the petition for conditional release. Well, those are things that the law says you're supposed to require or consider. You can't consider those when they're not willing to put in the work to show the court what a plan might look like, where she might live, where she might work, who she might be with, how they're going to provide treatment. Those are all unknown, much as the court pointed out they were unknowns back in April of 2024. I know, Judge, you touched on the Randall decision last time, and it indicates that making this decision requires a careful balancing in society's interest in protection from harmful conduct against the equity's interest in personal liberty and autonomy. We had questions, I think, to all of the doctors. Well, is staying at Winnebago actually harmful to Morgan? And we heard that, in their opinion, maybe it is, but that's not really a factor that the court has to look at. It's a balancing of
No, it
society's
wasn't her
interest
husband. He was
and
just in the
community's
background.
interest in protection balanced against any interest of the equity in liberty or autonomy. You indicated last time, Judge, that when indicating you were satisfied that Ms. Geyser posed a significant risk, that, and this is on page 126 of the transcript, now she works hard, she continues to do what she's supposed to do, but that doesn't change this risk. The community is concerned to a great extent with what happens to Ms. Geyser, but the primary concern and the balancing in the Randall case, they talk about the balancing that goes on in the court's decision. And you cite to the same section that it's a protection of harmful conduct from society against her interest in personal liberty and autonomy. I think for all of the reasons I pointed out, Judge, the seriousness, the brutality of this offense, the absence of really understanding, and not only Morgan
I tried the other angle. The problem is the audio is worse.
not understanding why the offense was committed, but everyone else not really being able to gain an understanding as to why this offense was committed, along with the other factors that are.
And now we have the
absent
same angle.
in this case, that you should find there's clear and convincing evidence of substantial risk. I know you mentioned right before we took the lunch break, Judge, that there was some statement in the Freeman. We have had conversations with the victim's family. They have indicated they don't wish to address the court, but they wish for us to indicate to you that they are opposed to Morgan's release. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Then I'll turn to Attorney Cott.
The burden of proof is on the state to show by clear and convincing evidence that the commitment should continue because Morgan is presently a danger to herself or others. It's their burden. Clear and convincing standard means that the evidence is highly and substantially more likely true than untrue when the court looks at the evidence that the state introduced today at today's hearing. State called as its witness Brooke Lundbaum. That was their only witness to meet their burden of proof. The only evidence they put in was Dr. Lundbaum. And Dr. Lundbaum has a long history with Ms. Geyser. As the court knows, Dr. Lundbaum's history with Ms. Geyser goes all the way back to when she did a competency evaluation very early on in the case before Ms. Geyser was adjudicated NGI. And Dr. Lundbaum, with that very long history, has conducted a number of evaluations and at least 2 conditional release reports, if not more. I think more than that, actually. And last time Dr. Lundbaum testified, the state called her last time as well to meet their burden of proof. She indicated that she did not support release. So what does the state do now in January of 2025? They call Dr. Lundbaum again. And now their witness takes the stand and testifies under oath that based on her deep analysis in this case, understanding the statutory criteria that needs to be considered, she cites it on page 1 of her opinion, the state's own witness testifies in support of conditional release. And I think almost everything Mr. Sapakowicz just said is a red herring to get this court to be scared somehow into doing what I think is the right thing to do and what the doctors believe is the right thing to do. We can never change the crime. It was a horrible event that took place, a horrible act that Ms. Geyser committed. She recognizes was horrible. She's talked about it at such length with her therapists and counselors. It's been the theme of constant discussion. And we absolutely have no doubt in this history of this case that there were psychotic conditions that she exhibited that explains the behavior, no doubt. Now, and that's because there's a confluence of opinions, a unanimity of opinions among all the professionals who evaluated her in close proximity to this offense who agree on that. They agree on it because including Dr. Lundbaum and Collins and Robbins, because they've been a part of Ms. Geyser's life for over 10 years. And all of them agree.
Because as the medical professional said earlier, I'll keep referring to her as she for completeness of, so you don't have to people mess it up all the time.
The state's casting a broad brush here, but I think it's far more nuanced than the way they're characterizing it, frankly. We are dealing with childhood schizophrenia, which is, as every doctor has said, both in their reports and testified to at various times, it's a very difficult condition to precisely diagnose. And they did diagnose it and they identified it. And there's no question that Ms. Geyser, as a result of those delusions and that trauma, committed this horrible crime. No doubt about it. I don't think the state stipulated to that when they agreed to the NGI finding. And it explains the behavior. The question becomes for this court today, when they attempt to meet their burden of proof, the question becomes whether they've shown by clear and convincing evidence that today, as you look at Ms. Geyser sitting here in court as an individual, whether she still presents that same risk today. She doesn't. She doesn't. Their own witness that they called explained why she doesn't. And what Dr. Lundbaum indicates is that the evidence does not continue to support that conclusion that she poses a risk of bodily harm to herself or others if conditionally released. She offers that opinion to a reasonable degree of professional certainty. Dr. Lundbaum notes that Morgan is 22. She comes to the court still committed to the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, and she describes how since 2021, there has been no attempt whatsoever for Ms. Geyser to injure herself. It was the last one and only time that there was any concern regarding her suicide attempt was October of 2021. And Dr. Lundbaum explains this isn't a situation where this is a wishy-washy doctor or somebody who's not confident or hasn't put a lot of thought or effort into their analysis. This is a doctor who explains exactly why she didn't support it in March, but supports it now. She explains that one concern she had back in March was that there was episodic display of heightened emotional distress in the absence of clear provocation or context. And there were concerns about trauma and intrusive memories. What she noted is that since the last petition, Ms. Geyser has been on the minimum security unit at the facility. She's been consistently placed in the pre-integration phase of treatment since June of 2022, which is the highest level of the highest level of permission available. She's earned all the privileges available to Winnebago mental health patients. She's acquired full escorted liberty privileges in February of 2024. She's participated in staff supervised off-grounds activities since March of 2023. And all of the available information, she notes, Dr. Lumbaum notes, reflects that Ms. Geyser has demonstrated, quote, consistent rule compliance. Now contrast that just for a minute against Randall. I don't know the case. It was a big case in Waukesha County, as I understand it.
Well, it's still a big case actually across the state, but I just, since we're citing it again, it's at 211 West App 102. That's the citation to it from 2011. But go ahead, just to put that in context.
It is a big case.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that remark was that it was a Waukesha County case specifically, as I understand it historically.
Was.
That was a very big case for the community, and it remains a published decision, as you know. But contrast what I just read in Ms. Geyser's behavior against Mr. Randall, who, while he was at Winnebago, the court noted, I think it was Judge Dreyfus who presided over the conditional release hearing, noted that while institutionalized, Randall was secretive, lied to staff, breaking rules when it situated him, and his behavior while committed mirrored the behavior that he exhibited in the community. And what Judge Dreyfus noted and the Court of Appeals emphasized in the published opinion that Your Honor cited was that Randall's secretive behavior throughout his years of commitment, throughout all those years that he was at Winnebago, included hiding items above ceiling tiles at a bicycle shop at Winnebago, denying that the items were his. The court noted that that was very similar behavior to what he exhibited during his original crime spree, because as I understand it, he engaged in a crime spree where he hid a CPR dummy above the ceiling tiles of a high school during a burglary. And when Randall was confronted about these things, he would become agitated and angry with the staff. The trial court made other findings about rule violations and inappropriate behavior throughout his time at Winnebago, failing to report to the treatment professionals that he had inherited money in a trailer, purchasing real estate for $42,000 with his inheritance without revealing that, hiding illicit items of property he purchased, receiving mail without the approval of his supervisors, maintaining a secret bank account, only revealing ownership interest in a property 14 months after he purchased it because he believed that he had been cheated out of $70,000, lying about turning over his keys to his property, lying to his supervisors about receiving mail about the property, violating conditions of his off-ground work privileges by going to his property in a restaurant without permission. And he was aware of all these rules. And it was based on those findings that were in the record that the state put in, that the court, that Judge Dreyfus could conclude reasonably that Mr. Randall was being devious, secretive, and essentially deciding he'll do the things he wishes to do regardless of the restrictions or limitations of Winnebago. And Randall himself didn't dispute the fact that he violated the rules on innumerable examples. He just argued they didn't matter. They're not significant enough because they don't involve violence. But what the court noted was you just keep breaking the rules, even when you're in the institution. So I think when you're examining whether they've met their burden of proof and they've called nobody from Winnebago to testify at all that Ms. Geyser has been anything other than an exemplary model patient, and our witnesses substantiate that fact, and we don't have a burden of proof. It's far different, far different than the Randall case. Now, there is, of course, a principle in the Randall case that Your Honor cited last time, that if 3 doctors or the multitude of doctors support a particular conclusion, this court is vested with ultimate power and decision-making authority.
The Randall case they are talking about, I think it's a 16-year-old who unalived 2 officers in 1975, and he was tried as an adult. 2 years later, the jury found Alan Randall guilty on 2 counts of first-degree unaliving. Due to procedural problems with the prosecution in the... Oh, that's another case. Because Randall's attorney had raised the defense of legal insanity, the trial went into a second phase centered around the issue of his mental state at the time of the red rums. The jury, having heard testimony from psychiatrists who diagnosed Randall of having a personality disorder, found him not guilty by reason of insanity. Today, a criminal defendant with a so-called personality disorder would not be adjudged legally insane because people with this disorder are not psychotic or in any way delusional. They are fully aware of what they have done and know that the act of red rum is wrong. In other words, these defendants are not insane, they are bad. Ted Bundy had a personality disorder. John Hinckley was mentally ill. Having been declared legally insane, Alan Randall, rather than being sent to prison for a specific period of time, was packed off to a mental institute for an indefinite period. He would be eligible for release when psychiatrists said he was cured of his mental illness. Since Randall was not insane, he was at least in theory eligible for release the day they admitted him into the Central State Hospital in Northeast Wisconsin. In 1980, doctors took Randall off his antipsychotic medication. A model patient, the best mental patient are the ones who aren't insane. Mr. Randall was transferred to the Winnebago Mental Institute in Madison, where he was allowed to work full-time in an art gallery. He was released after 36 years in a mental institution.
Nobody's harboring any delusion about that fact, Randall's decision or not. But the question legally is whether they met their burden of proof by clear and convincing evidence. And what you have in this record here.
I believe she was convicted to 40 years. So with good behavior and stuff like that, and probably because of a young age, they would have set a minimum age, I don't know, maybe 20 years.
Is an incredibly thoughtful and thorough opinion by Dr. Lundbaum, where she has examined that history at Winnebago with Ms. Geyser, which has been perfect. We know, and you have in personal knowledge, Your Honor, of Ms. Weier's case, the co-defendant, you have personal knowledge.
Talking about
situation
being
of what happens
insane.
in conditional release hearings,
Insane
not
in
just
the
from that one, but
membrane.
from other
Hey,
cases
Jamie.
you've presided over, and you know how the process works.
Hi.
Once the court approves
So
conditional
I have a
release-
question.
I have an answer.
Well, no, this is kind of for everybody in the chat too, because
Oh.
I've been reading comments and stuff. But like everybody wants her to stay in here, right? Because they
Yes.
don't want her out in society. But she's eventually going to get out into society. So what does everybody think is a good time frame? If she's making progress and doing all the things that she should be doing to eventually become a member of society once again, with restrictions, obviously. Like, if she's doing the steps that she's to take and she's really actually, the doctors are saying that she's progressing, and then they want to transition her to like kind of in those areas where she's still supervised, she's still monitored, she still has to do things. Like, when is it okay? I mean, it's been 10 years already. Is it really that people want her to be more comfortable in there because of she committed a crime? So there's a time frame, because eventually she's going to be out in the world at some point. I mean, that's the point of all of this, is try to rehabilitate people. But I'm just curious. I mean, I don't really, this is a hard one for me. I don't really have a side, really. I mean, I ultimately, in my heart of hearts, I want people to be rehabilitated. I want them to have second chances. If they can prove that they can be a member of society and move on with their life.
I put up a poll just with what I have gathered has been the main talking points today. I put in 10 years, 5 years, 6 months, let us have another hearing. Or today, doctor says it's fine. And it's, of course, with supervision. She will have to stay at a group home where she will have help. She will be supervised. She will be medicated. She will have to participate in therapy or whatever treatment they need. Because, again, are we punishing or are we rehabilitating? And we will always be angry for what she did. But does she deserve another chance? She have now spent she has spent 83% of her entire life in a mental institution. No, that's not right. No, that's because I'm an idiot. It's 22. She has spent 45% of her time in a mental institution. How much more of her life should she be in a mental institution if she, by being medicated, can be stable, can be perhaps a productive member of society. I have my concerns. She could be faking it. She could be kind of gaining information about which way should I swing this, what should I claim to make it go. But again, are we punishing just to punish, or are we punishing to rehabilitate? That's always the question. And she is put in there because she is in a situation where the doctors believe that she, by having the right treatment, could be cured and not be a danger to society again. So that's a good ethical and moral question, Jamie. Thank you.
No, I was just thinking about it because it's like, I want I want everyone, even criminals. Like, I want people to like be rehabilitated. I mean, some things are crazy. Okay, I get that, but it's case by case. But some people make a mistake, and
I
should we
subtracted by
always?
12 instead of 22. It's the same, Brandon. You do the same at your firm when you're writing bills. That's how many hours did I spend? 12 or 22? 22.
But I mean, has she had any? From what I'm hearing, I mean, again, we just got into this today. Like, she hasn't had any. It's not like she was
She
causing
has
all
no
this
diagnosis.
drama.
She has no diagnosis that claims she's a psychopath.
Well, yeah, but she's also not like a troublemaker in the facility, right? We haven't heard anything of like, oh, she's causing all these problems. She's going crazy on
Well,
people.
she
And
did
then
try to
for this,
unalive her. She did try to unalive herself 3 years ago. That's another thing I don't buy. Well, it's so long ago. 3 years isn't that long ago when she tried to unalive herself, and she's changed her gender twice in 6 months. That's also a sign she's not in a stable position, in my
but
opinion.
in my opinion, I would be more worried if she was like fighting people and being very like violent, you know what I mean, and getting in trouble. And then all of a sudden for 6 months, because she had her 6 months before, whatever. For this 6 months, she's just been like the perfect angel and then trying to get out. That would be different for me. But if she hasn't been doing those types of things and she's really been sticking to the care plan because I mean, she's very aware that you need to progress. I mean, maybe I know she could be
No,
manipulating
and people
everybody, but
people need to understand what she's convicted of, because it doesn't help yelling at Jamie. Did you think she made a mistake? No, that's not what we're saying. She has been found insane or mentally defective, which means she might have planned it. She might have drawn the map, but it was because her mental health problems. And if she couldn't be healed, she shouldn't be in a mental institution. Then she should be in prison. You don't put people in a hospital if you don't want them to be cured. That's another thing. And that's why it's an ethical and a moral dilemma as well, because are we here to heal her, which we believe we can, and she only did it because she was sick? Or are we here to say, well, we did claim you're sick, but we are still here to just punish you? And that's kind of a dilemma. I don't know the right answer. I don't think I would release her today. That's my take of what I've heard today. I don't feel she has been stable for long enough that I would believe that she is as stable as she could be, especially because of the gender dysphoria. Twice she's tried to change the gender in 6 months. That's not just I like my toenails pink. No, I like them blue.
I never said she made a mistake, to be clear, everybody. I said people make mistakes and go to jail. It's not always murder. It could be anything. And we give them second chances. We rehabilitate them. I'm just saying. It's just a thought. Everybody,
yeah, but again,
relax.
she shouldn't be in a mental institution if we don't believe that she was mentally ill when she did it. Then she should be in prison.
Yeah.
So we have to rely on the first charge. We can't just say, well, that doesn't matter. She's been found mentally defective. And then, yeah, exactly, Brandon. This is the moral and ethical dilemma, because you will punish and you will rehabilitate But is it years that makes it the right length? Is it the treatment that make it the right length? And at what time can you say we have punished enough that the amount of rehabilitation is okay? Because I'm also very well aware there's a family out there who has a young daughter and we actually had a very long debate about the sentencing we did today, because there has been a lot of focus on involuntary unalivings in Denmark, because
Yeah.
especially in traffic, because they didn't get a lot before, and we were discussing it, because that's the hard part, where you have to evaluate and say, well, I want everyone who steals a pack of gum being shot on the town square, or well, even Ted Bundy should get a second chance. That's kind of the two extremes. They are really easy to be extreme, but when you're digging into it, what's the moral dilemma? Because if you claim she's sick, and now you claim she's not sick anymore, can you then keep her in prison? I would still say, in my opinion, I would hold another hearing in 6 months and see if she is in the same stable trajectory. That's just my opinion. Jamie will have her flogged in the town square for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Jamie, abuse, believe all bakers. Brandon,
Oh my
as
goodness.
always, is right.
Yeah. It's just, I want people to be rehabilitated into society. And I know some can't. I get it. It's case by case. I'm just saying, in this situation, I'm kind of in the middle, because it's like, okay, she's been doing the right things. Is she manipulating? I don't know. I don't think anyone can really tell. The doctors are saying she's doing well. They're recommending it. And I'm just at a like, when is it okay to go to the next step?
And Susan, then they gave her the wrong sentencing, because
Yeah. And she should be in prison.
yeah, she should be in prison. You have to play along with what she was sentenced with, and she was sentenced with, she only did it because she was sick, and I don't believe that. I think the way I have read about it, because I was reading about a little bit before, it seems to me a little too convenient that they could do it, and then all of a sudden they were crazy, both of them. But again, she got the sentence she got, and this is okay by Wisconsin law to have these hearings. I'm just saying, I don't think she's stable enough where she is right now. I don't know. Who's an adult and who's a kid?
I know, like, when really do you become mature enough? I don't know.
Her sentence was 40 years, but she was not guilty by way of mental defect. And yeah, not guilty, insanity, well, mental defect, but 40 years in a mental lockup with possibility of hearings after, I believe it was it 8 years or 10 years? I'm actually, I would like her in the state hospital to show that she can continue the next 6 months at the same stable level. That would be my thing. But I can understand people say, well, if she could get better treatment in a group home. I just don't think she has shown enough continued improvement or stability, in my opinion. And that's because I hear what he's saying. She acknowledged some of the things that kind of seems like she's just saying the right words. And to me, I would like, but I'm a hard ass. So, yeah.
I'll have 60 days to put together the plan with the treatment professionals in the community, WCS and DHS. And they'll put together a plan, and they will identify the group home for Ms. Geyser to live in. That's what they do for people who aren't going to go home.
No, but your brother didn't, it wasn't found insane. This lady was.
Their parents, put them in a group home. And you don't have to approve that. You can reject it. You can look at the plan they put together and say, I don't think a group home that they've identified is suitable, and I don't think these conditions make sense. And you can modify that or reject that as you see.
It's every 6 months she can have a new hearing. This is 6 months after her last hearing. It was rejected 6 months ago, and that's when I'm saying, and she was non-binary at the last hearing. Now she's a man. To me, that's a big change, and that shows me she's not stable. And as Valhalla said, maybe it's her way of taking control. As I talked about earlier, a lot of autists do it to try and fit in and try and change who they are because they don't fit in. They are that square peg in a round hole. But I still think a 6 month more, and yeah.
defect. But to trigger that process to occur requires you to grant conditional release. That's why this is so important. It's important because Ms. Geyser continues to demonstrate throughout her time at Winnebago consistent adherence to the rules of the facility. And as Dr. Lumbaum is noting, and as every
So she's actually been there 3 times the minimum time, 3 years confinement in addition to involuntary treatment and state forensics psychiatry. Yeah.
doctor notes, and every person at Winnebago noted that Ms. Geyser will be placed in a group home and supportive environment. She will be closely supervised by staff as she reintegrates into the community. And as you know from Ms. Weier's case, there will be GPS monitoring. She'll be on a bracelet that will undoubtedly be ordered. And it'll be ordered so that Ms. Geyser's whereabouts are known 24/7. So that was the state's expert. The one witness they called meet their burden of proof testified contrary to the arguments that they're now making, which is that Ms. Geyser should be essentially indefinitely detained in the facility, because it seems to me that none of these arguments will change. And Ms. Geyser herself has truly maximized the services available to her at Winnebago, and she's shown through her performance that she's not a risk. But it's not just Dr. Lumbaum. It's Dr. Robbins, who's the former director of Mendota. And I don't know who the experts were in the Randall case, but you do have to look at you do consider as part of this analysis who the experts are that are called to testify. There's different levels of doctors and professionals and caregivers in society. Some doctors are new, some are inexperienced, some don't do a thorough job, and then there's others that are immensely qualified. There's a wide range, just like there are of lawyers and other professionals. So last time we were here, 2 of the 3 doctors didn't support release, although Dr. Collins was close. She wanted to see additional positive progress by Ms. Geyser. Dr. Robbins, who was the second witness to testify, is the former director of the Mendota Mental Health Facility. And he evaluated Ms. Geyser, he studied the history, and he also supports release. He concludes that she's not a substantial risk to herself and others based on his study of the history. I think probably I hate to rank witnesses, but I think in terms of length of the report, Dr. Collins' report was certainly the longest. You have personal familiarity with Dr. Collins in countless cases where she's appeared in front of your honor. And you do bring that to the table when you evaluate this situation. You consider your life experiences, you consider your history with Ms. Geyser, with the co-defendant, and also your familiarity with the doctors. Dr. Collins is the gold standard, if you will, of psychological evaluations. She has incredible experience, dozens of years working in this field. She runs behavioral consultants. She's the head of the Wisconsin Forensic Unit. This is a doctor who, by all accounts, I think even the state would agree, the state will frequently use Dr. Collins for its purposes. But Dr. Collins endorses Ms. Geyser's release to conditional release. When you read her report, I don't want to belabor it, but we went through it item by item, Your Honor. And Dr. Collins went through the full history of everything that's happened in this case. She went back through the competency evaluations. She went through the medical records. She read the summaries. She talked to the people at Winnebago. And she reached a conclusion that Ms. Geyser is no longer a substantial risk of violence to herself and others. Part of that is, as Ms. Nicolai pointed out when she called her first witness, there are some tests, the HCR test, for example, that they use to help shape their opinions. But it's also, Dr. Collins' opinion is also the product of her long history with Ms. Geyser, interacting with her, talking to her, working with her. And I thought it was significant that Dr. Collins talked about Ms. Geyser's incredible insight that she has into both why the crime happened, as well as what her needs are in the future. We cited some of it when we were talking to her on the stand. If you give me a minute, Your Honor. When she asked Ms. Geyser about her
symptoms, whether there was any malingering, Morgan said unequivocally that she was delusional and thus psychotic years ago. And whether those symptoms were triggered by schizophrenia or trauma, the way you figure that out is exactly how Kayla Pope, the medical director of Winnebago, proposed addressing it. A person is medicated, they've been stable for a sufficient period of time, and we start to wean them off medication to see whether or not the condition has gone into remission or resurfaces. If it resurfaces, resume the medication. If it doesn't, continue on the positive track that we're on. And that's far different than Randall. Far different, because as I recall the decision pointing out, there was a finding by the court that there was no mental health explanation for any of this. And the crimes weren't even attributable to mental illness, unlike here where they are. And he received no treatment. There's a guy who goes to Winnebago for a decade plus and he gets no treatment. And nothing had changed except the passage of time and repeated rule infractions. And that's far different than Ms. Geyser, who went through a battery of treatment, antipsychotic medication for years, and has been willing to participate and has participated in every interview and evaluation that's taken place to determine what her needs are. And you look at Ms. Geyser's continued performance, unlike Randall, you look at Ms. Geyser's performance of working her job at Winnebago, being honest with the treatment providers. You heard from her therapist, who Morgan meets with in a one-on-one private setting. And the therapist described, even in a one-on-one setting, Morgan is highly engaged. She's inquisitive. She asks questions. She works on her assignments. She does the things that she needs to do to better herself. And during the outings that have happened in the community, you have a whole list of infractions by this Randall individual, and the exact opposite with Ms. Geyser. She's going to Target, she's going to Pick and Save, she's going to McDonald's and Starbucks. These are escorted outings, of course, but there's plenty of opportunity. If a person is not functioning properly, plenty of opportunity in these outings for somebody to create a scene, to act out, or to do anything to disrupt the privileges that they have. None of that has happened here. Ms. Geyser's in good. So the question is, the legal question for the court at these hearings is whether the state met its burden of proof with the evidence it introduced today. And it didn't. It didn't, not by a clear and convincing standard or by any standard. The evidence that's come in at this hearing today is that Ms. Geyser is not a substantial risk of presenting great bodily harm to herself or others or property damage. Even after Your Honor denied her release last time, and she was met with the stark reality of the fact that she was going back into custody, back to Winnebago, and had a minimum 6-month period of time before she could even file a petition. She handled that stressful encounter perfectly. She continued with her therapy, continued with her outings, continued working.
He's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's fighting for her, yeah.
And worked on her RAP plan, which also demonstrates her ability to understand her condition. You know, when the state argues that Ms. Geyser there isn't an explanation, there absolutely is an explanation. And in fact, Ms. Geyser herself has developed a wellness recovery action plan that she discussed at great length with Dr. Collins. And Dr. Collins noted, she quoted Ms. Geyser about saying that, I acknowledge and understand the gravity of my past actions. This isn't somebody who doesn't appreciate the wrongfulness of what they did. She does, looking back on it, appreciate that. And she struggled for years to forgive herself for what she did to as she put it, the only person who cared about her. And Morgan has completed all of the treatment that's available to her at the institution. There are no greater levels of privileges that she can exhibit. She is a young adult who ought to continue growing in the community. It will make the community safer. It'll make her safer, and it'll make the community safer for her to be out of an institution with acutely mentally ill people so that she can start to grow as an individual. She will be highly restricted, so it's clear, highly supervised, GPS monitoring, living in a group home. Any misconduct, as you know from your experiences, any misconduct, judge, immediately gets brought back to court. A hold gets placed on her, she goes into custody. If there's even the slightest deviation from the rules and the requirements that are expected of her. But she's shown through her time in Winnebago that she can do everything that is expected of her.
She will not be released to live with someone else. She will be released into a group home if she's released. She will not be free on the street. It will be like going from Supermax to normal prison. She will be in a group home because you can hear she already have the ability to go out, go to the dollar store and all of these places. What will change is instead of being institutionalized at the Winnebago Center, she'll be institutionalized in a group home. That's the difference between the two things. She will not be released to the street.
She is not behaving violently. She's not injuring herself. She's participating in treatment. She takes her medication. And what Dr. Pope decided to do, I don't know if it was her
Exactly,
decision
Colson.
directly or she oversaw it, but the treatment team decision to wean Ms. Geyser off of the medication to see whether the condition was in remission and whether she could be safely supervised without heavy antipsychotropic medication turned out to be the right call, because Ms. Geyser responded favorably to that and continues to respond favorably. Now, do we have 100% certainty? Of course not. That's why the close supervision is important. I would just end by noting that how different this is from the Randall situation in almost every respect. The quality of the doctors that support it, the unanimity of opinions, the thoroughness of the reports, the individual herself sitting here and the things that she's done to prove herself. In the record that's in front of you, the record that the state put in the Randall case, showing the pattern of deviousness, dishonesty, deceptiveness that mirrored the crime, justified Judge Dreyfus's decision. No question about it. But this record is devoid of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Then Attorney Zupakowicz, do you have a rebuttal argument?
Just briefly, Judge, and I don't think this is certainly a determining factor, but it seems to be fairly easily swept under the rug by maybe the doctors and by the defense here. We had this offense occurred in 2014, and we have her suicide attempt 7 years later in 2021. So a long period of time went by between when she engaged in this violent episode towards the victim and then engaged in what I would describe as another violent episode regarding herself, which by all accounts was certainly a very serious attempt to kill herself. There were 7 years in between those two events. And to say, well, this suicide attempt was a long time ago, it was less than 4 years ago. So I don't think that can so easily be considered as being so dated that it is not something that the court can consider when assessing whether or not she currently represents a substantial risk. I went back to look at, and I guess I'm unsatisfied, Judge, and I think the court should be as well, from the doctor's explanations of things, because when I look at Dr. Lundbaum's report, and I start at the bottom of page 15 under her analysis and conclusion section, Dr. Lundbaum talks about Dr. Lundbaum's report prior to the hearing in April of 2024, and notes that in that prior report, she raised concerns about Ms. Geyser's remarkably low understanding of her psychiatric illness, especially given her claims that she fabricated psychosis at the time of and for several years after the index offense, in clear contrast to the abundance of evidence available. I noted that the inconsistency in her self-report over time complicated the prediction of her risk for future violence and the ability to create an appropriate supervision and treatment plan. I guess what I'm unsatisfied with, Judge, is there's then no explanation in this current report how that's not still a problem. There's no explanation of how we get past the prior inconsistencies in Morgan's self-reporting and how over time that affects the prediction of her risk for future violence. Dr. Lundbaum just kind of skips over that and goes into, well, she's following the rules, she's doing well, hasn't caused a problem, and therefore, because of all that, I believe release is now appropriate. But again, there's no explanation how we get past that prior inconsistencies in her self-reporting. So that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zupakowicz. I'm going to take about a half-hour recess just to review items, and we'll come back. Let's plan to come back about 3:15.
So, 15 minutes till they're back. It's a moral dilemma because, again, you have to say, well, we found her treatable, but she's also red-rummed someone. And I don't know what I've heard today, and I
Well,
have
she
to agree
didn't,
with-
though. Remember that. I mean, yeah, she attempted it, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, she's attempted red rum. Sorry, she didn't red rum someone. She attempted red rum.
Yes.
But what
I'm
I'm
just
what
just being specific.
yeah, because some people are saying, well, she red rum something. Sorry, I shouldn't. I got
It's not any
three.
better, but yeah, it's
Yeah. But I had Treehouse Tie in my comments today telling me I lied. So I will have to try and be more truthful, Jamie. I blame you.
I'm just sorry.
But it's just that I just don't feel that she has shown stability for long enough. And again, I don't buy this. It's 3 years since she tried to self-delete.
Mhm.
But I don't think she should stay inside forever either. But I just don't get what because I haven't heard what changed in the last 6 months. Because the first lady who thought she should be inside at the last hearing now changed it, and she couldn't really say why, other than she was taking her meds and seemed okay. And would you in such a severe case say, well, 6 month evaluation, yeah, that's fine. I can judge it in 6 months. There's no possibility of we call it fallback. I don't know what you call it, where you regress to your former state. Because it's kind of like having someone who is manic depressive. They can be really, really stable and really, really good for a year, and then the
Mhm.
world just crashes.
Yeah.
I think 6 months is too short a time to evaluate that she has made a consistent and lasting change, and she's now at a stable mental place where everything. But that's just me. I don't know. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
what Jess said, that's what I was thinking too. It was denied, but it's not like she wasn't there. They just wanted a little more time. So what if this is the little more time that you
Yeah,
wanted?
again, yeah.
But you know what I
But
mean? Like, I don't
but
know.
then you have the gender dysphoria. That's a new thing from the last trial. To me, that shows she's not stable. Because that's again, I have a close personal friend that's not dealing with, well, someone close to him is dealing with that right now. And trust me, that's not a good mental state
Mhm.
for anyone. That's a lot of conflict. That's a lot of tears. That's a lot of yelling. Um, so I'm just saying, if she was that stable, why did that all of a sudden come in? And I don't take it as you are against this or that. No, I'm just saying that doesn't show to me she is in a clear mental state where she knows, okay, I'm be living here for a level here for another 6 months. And so to me, maybe she's just shifting her mental problems into another area and kind of hides. I don't know. To me, I if and I can only say what I think. If I was the judge today, I wouldn't grant her the step down. I would need to see her in, and I know the 6 month period is court mandated that they have to do it, or they can apply every 6 months. But I would like to have seen her progression being stable. Again, it could be that she's not trying to unalive herself, and she hasn't attacked the janitor, but there's other parts of her life that's still doing this one. And my fear would be, if this one stables out, does this then go back and be unstable? I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a stupid baker.
No, you're fine. I mean, everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. None of us have the correct answer, because all of
No.
what we are saying are based on our feelings. And and on our, we want to punish more, we want to rehabilitate more, we want to send them to the deepest, the darkest pits of hell, or we want to release them.
Yeah.
All of it is, and especially in a case like this, it's very hard to, because we have to accept that she is sick. And if she's sick, we have to look past the deed she did in some way, because we can't then blame her for the planning and for the action, because that was her illness that made that. Because if we don't accept that, then she should have been in prison. And that's the big problem here, because I think a lot of people in chat is also very, very upset that she got to be in a mental institution instead of being in the big house. And but sadly, that's the way it is. We have to accept that she was found mentally ill. So no matter, she comes into another, it's another playbook when you have mental illness. You can't, it's not a Bradley Yawn where you can just, well, he's just an idiot, send him to prison forever. Because some people have at some point said, this lady is sick. And that just, I thought that this would be a really boring, because it's just experts, but it has really given me a moral and ethical conundrum to battle with. It's
Yeah. Well, because you think about the victim. I mean,
yeah,
100%. This poor girl went through hell and back. Thank God she's still with us.
yeah,
And, obviously we should have some sort of justice for her. But also, I just have this part of me. I mean, I just always want people to be rehabilitated. I want to be able to help people, and I want people to be able to progress and not just be stuck in the depths of hell the rest of their lives. Like, and I
yeah.
understand where people don't agree with me, and that's fine. But I mean, yeah, maybe she needs another year or two.
I'm just
But if
saying,
they're saying that she's at the level where like there's really nothing more for her, and then she's at the point where she can do the step down and then obviously she screws up, she's back in it. Like, it's not like she's going out on the streets free willy-nilly. She's already able to go out into society and go shopping and do things already.
yeah, and she will be in the same environment, just in another institution. And Sweet Tooth Fairy, no, none of the boys did that. One of the boys have lived up to the agreement, because they were removed. No media in England can write their names anywhere. They were giving new identities. They were giving new addresses. One of the boys have stayed out of trouble. The other one is a POS. I think he has some CP things, and he constantly goes out and goes to get drunk and tell everyone who he is. Then the state have to give him a new name, move him again, and there's actually a lot of talk about, should he be constantly protected because he was that young when he did it, but he keeps effing up. But there was no red rum. I think there was some CP with one of them or something like that. But there's a lot of that's a lot of craziness. The other boy I think he has done we haven't done okay, but he's done what he's told, and the other one just keeps making crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shore Life, I agree. 6 months is too little for me, and especially
But remember,
because,
she was already
no,
told
because she
no
has
at the
made
6 month mark, and this is another 6 months. So
no, she has made a giant change in those 6 months. She has now said she's gone from non-binary to choosing a new gender. And people can say, well, she was, when non-binary, she was thinking about it. Yeah, but that's a whole, again, it's way different for me to say, well, she's stable. No, changing your, even if you don't do it, the choppy chop parts and stuff like that, that's a big thing mentally. It's a big awakening, or whatever you will call, when you decide that you are, instead of being Jamie, you are Johnny. or the other way around, that doesn't show me you are in a good, healthy equilibrium in your brain. You are struggling with a lot of things, and maybe it's the right thing for her. I don't know. Maybe she will be fine with that the rest of her life. But if you claim she's been stable for 6 months while she's been doing that, I think that's a little bit of the social worker will just always say, yay, to people. I don't see it as stability. I would like to see at least 6 months, maybe a year, where she continues to keep this identity. She continues to produce positive impact with the personnel who treats her, where she keeps her nose clean and all of that stuff. I just don't say you can say she's been stable when she's made that big of a change in your life. Because again, if I came on tomorrow and said, hey, I'm Betty, not Baker, people would probably say, okay, you had a bad night of sleep. What the hell's going on? It's just not something you will say. That's people who are really, really stable right now who makes those things. I don't know.
Yeah.
They've
I mean,
said
I get
she's
where
ready
you're
for the
coming
next
from.
step, but step down and would benefit from it. But if she messes up and she goes up, she goes, but to the more restrictive setting and has to start earning again. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I would still like her to be stable for a longer time. So yeah.
I think I look at more of, so you're looking at that part of it, but I look more of like, is she doing her therapy? Is she, acting out? Is she, and if I'm not seeing, I've seen she's partaking in like the treatment and she's following the rules. She's not getting violent with people. Because I mean, like, if you know you're going to be in a place like that for a long time, like, and you really don't give an F, like, you could just act out all you want. But it seems like they haven't had a problem with her doing any of those things. And I don't know. Maybe she needs a little more time, but I don't know. I don't really see a problem with taking the next step and seeing. I mean, you got to take a chance at some point.
Chicka, 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 chicka. Take a chance on me. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Honey, love's not free. Take a chance on me.
Well, I mean, they could wait another 5 years and she could then get released and still go do the same thing that everybody thinks she's going to do now. So I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. You really don't. I'm just.
No, and that's the beauty of, we are all fighting about something. We can't do anything. That's and Brandon's sadly no matches yet.
Oh my Lord.
Hey,
yeah, I mean, I don't care. Yell at me. I have my opinions.
Yell at you all the time, Jamie.
Baker disagrees with me 100% of the time.
You have to sweat. Well, I don't like showing the. I don't know these women. She's
that's
interested
exactly
in
it. Susan is. No one knows for sure. No one knows for sure if they're going to release her in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, that she's going to still go do the same crap. If she's going to go off somebody, or if she gets released now, if she's going to go off somebody. You just don't know. Or she could be just the perfect human being for the rest of her life. Who knows?
No, Jamie and I am fighting because Jamie, you haven't seen the text messages she sent me behind the scene. There's a lot of them where it starts with, "Why are you this stupid?" And
whatever.
So, but a lady who is interested in fashion, CrossFit, trying new things, travel, and sport. CrossFit is a mental illness, so probably shouldn't like her.
Did you say CrossFit is a mental illness?
Yeah. CrossFit is like vegetarianism. How do you know people do it? They'll tell you. So And for anyone who does CrossFit here, I heard it's a great sport. Really good for you. And your chiropractor loves it. By the way, unless you used a fake phone number, you put your number on screen on the Tinder profile on the last stream. Oh. Well, please don't call me. I'll block anyone who calls me.
Well,
Yolanda Saldiva had 30 years in jail over Selena. I'm still salty. Leave this girl another 5 years.
got it, Iris.
If your business or Letitia had gotten no guilty insanity pleas and was out in 10 years, there would be no one wanting their release.
Listen up. If these two girls got the insanity pleas, I would be livid at that already because none of them were insane. I mean, they're insane in a different way, not mentally insane. I would already be angry about that. Like, no, no, no. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, now do you know how much trouble it is? Then I can't go more than 4 hours because then I can't go back and edit it. It's going to be annoying. Has anyone seen her mom in court? I don't think, well,
No.
she's gotten back in, maybe her mom is this person up here. No,
Well,
she was the other on the other side.
well, I mean, like, see, I never saw this trial. I'm just basing it off of what the doctors are saying. And they, she's been in the mental institution, so I'm assuming she had a mental illness.
Yeah,
But
they can
I watched
voice
the
call
other
me.
two, so I just have different feelings about that.
And yes, people can just voice call me in Discord, but the problem is now they have my address if they use my phone number. So, yeah. But again, Pernilla got it by me for 2 seconds saying my last name. So, I'm not that hard to find. Well, no lady is crazy enough to start stalking me. Or imagine having a lady flying 8,000 miles just to see you. That's not going to happen.
Not unless they're forced to.
Exactly. Well, we call that mail order brides, Jamie. We don't call it forcing them to do it. It's called mail order brides. And that's okay some places. Well, normally we just go to Thailand and find a wife.
No, just kidding. I'm not. It'll be fun.
Well, I think Jamie is more just to try and unalive me.
Oh, Iris is very convincing. And it sounded fun. And I was like, sure.
Well,
I'm going to
let's
get
say,
lost instantly. I just know it. She showed us where we're going to stay at. And I was like, we can
it's
just
really
walk
easy.
around? I'm going to just immediately disappear. Because I get real, I like sightseeing. And like sometimes I'll go walking and I'll just like, I don't even know where I'll end up.
You're going to be right next to the central station. If you get on any, we have what's called S trains or the metro. If you get on any of those, you will end at some point at the main central station. So you can just ride the train. Hopefully no one will come and give you a fine, but that's
Iris said she's going to put an air tag on me.
Yeah, I've sent him a DM if it was okay to reuse his stream because I want to see that too. Yeah, maybe we should put some baby brains on Jamie. Put an air tag on her. Get a leash on Jamie.
Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
Can you just get her iPhone, find my phone, and
Yeah.
then go find her on Tinder? I don't what? Who swiped right
Yeah.
first? Who?
I'll find my way back. It's fine.
No, when you're right next to the central station. If you go backwards from your hotel, you're going to go to the meat packing district. That's a lot of little fancy restaurants and stuff like that. If you go to the central station and just go all the way through it and out the other side, you'll be out by near Tivoli, and then City Hall, then the walking street where you can go see all the shops. Sadly, Tivoli isn't open.
Yeah, do I gotta do something fancy to my phone? In case I need it for when I get lost?
Well,
I mean,
I
I
wouldn't use your phone in Denmark because there will be a lot of roaming fees on it. You'll probably need some
I don't
local
think
stuff.
my phone company has all that. I'll have to ask. I'll have to go look and see. I know
Yeah,
I'll have to like put something on my debit card to let them know I'm gonna be out of it. Because when I went to Mexico, they were like, they're trying to deny stuff.
woohoo! You can get cheap views on steamboo.com. Remove the space. I love being on Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. Yes, Jamie is coming to Denmark. Actually, if
Yeah.
any of you is no, that's the wrong one. This is the right one. We will have a Scandi meetup. Pernilla will be there. Maybe Mads can be lured to come in and say hi to us. He lives
Yeah.
half an hour away in train, so he can
Half an
come in.
hour. That's it. Come on, Mass. Come say hi.
Maybe 45 minutes. Well, no, if he takes the express, he can be in 30 minutes. So you can get an all-day pass for the metro and S train. Probably the easiest. Yeah. No, my phone. Well, I can set it up for an eSIM, but I still have a physical card in it. I don't know how eSIM works either.
Hmm. I don't know how any of this works. Look at her. I already got this covered. I'm trying to worry about one thing at a time.
It's not that big of a problem. And again, just don't. There's Wi-Fi on the hotel. You'll be fine. The rest of the time. Oh, by the way, we have to go out and find some fancy cake for Irish on the
Yeah, for her
Friday.
birthday. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably have to go to La Glace or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You have to go somewhere where they have cake and cheesecake. No, I don't know if I don't trust. What is Danish
probably not true.
cheesecake any really good? Probably not, huh?
Jamie, what do you call stuff you eat for breakfast? It's Danish. Probably because we're pretty good at making cakes. We have La Glace. They have layer cakes.
Oh my lord!
This is a good one. I like the Otello cake, but that was marzipan. You don't like marzipan. Hans Christian Andersen cake. The Golden Tower.
We'll be there March 6th, right? March 6th? Yeah. No, wait, 7th. I leave here on the 6th and then I get there on the 7th. 7th of March.
Supervised release that was
You can voice in another room.
that was filed earlier this year. It was filed on October 11, 2024, and then the doctor's reports were received, and we had each of the doctors testify. So the reports that the court received were from Dr. Collins. With regard to her report, she testified. With regard to Dr. Lundbone, she testified as well as her report, and from Dr. Robbins, who testified, and we have his report. All of the reports were received without objection from any of the parties, and the testimony came in smoothly. What's the nature of I went through at the beginning of the hearing this morning, what the status of the initial case is from the standpoint of how it came about back in 2014. We're familiar with that set of facts. What the court has to do today is that the court shall grant the petition for release unless it finds by clear and convincing evidence that the person poses a significant risk of bodily harm to herself or bodily harm to herself or to others, or of serious property damage if released. What that sentence takes into account is that the issues of supervised release and not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect takes into account a lot of cases. That we're dealing with an attempted murder case in this matter, but it takes into account many other cases and outstanding criminal matters that are out there that involve property damage, don't involve people at all. So that's why the statute's phrased the way it is. But our focus is on damage, is on risks of safety to Ms. Geyser herself, or the risk to others. And part of that risk is, of course, recidivism, that it happened once, would it happen again, that she'd attempt to kill somebody under any set of circumstances. Those are factors that the court has to look at and decide. Burden is on the state by clear and convincing evidence to establish that the current restrictions and the current commitment should stay in effect. By statute, Ms. Geyser has a right to file for a petition for release every 6 months. So it's not something that, with regard to what the court may or may not do today, if the court denies the petition today, she can come back and file it again in 6 months. That doesn't mean anything other than that's just what the law is. Some of it may have been to address constitutional issues with regard to commitments, but it's certainly part of the system. One thing to keep in mind as well, and that this was a serious criminal case, attempted murder. There are 2 defendants in the case. Both were children at the time that it happened, 12 years old. The victim was a child. But the case didn't resolve itself per se in the criminal field. It's not a criminal conviction. In this case, based upon the nature of the law and what happened, the court found that Ms. Geyser was not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Then that moves it into the commitment field, the civil field that we're addressing today under Chapter 971, and in particular 971-17 of the Wisconsin statutes. So this isn't about somebody going to prison. It's about somebody being committed to a mental institution, to a hospital, and how that person functions with that institutional setting. In the statute 971-17 sub 4 sub D provides some factors for the court to look at in deciding how best to look at what the issues are. Factors the court can consider are the nature and circumstances of the crime, the person's mental history, Ms. Geyser's mental history, what her present mental condition is. We've had a lot of testimony about that and a lot of reports written on that topic. Where will she live? What the status is? How the person will support herself? What arrangements are available to ensure that she will have access to and take necessary medications, and what arrangements are possible for treatment other than medications. So some of those factors are clearly pertain to the case, some don't. I'm going to talk about a number of them as I see them through the report and what happened in this matter. A further comment for the court to keep in mind it was really addresses part of the argument that that Attorney Cotton brought forward, and that was the issues in State versus Randall. That was the Court of Appeals decision that was referenced during his argument, and actually referenced by the state at various times as well. In the Randall case, and it's just a 2011 WISAT 102. It's a 2011 Court of Appeals decision. As was noted, Randall is a case that arose out of Waukesha County. It's a Waukesha County case. One of the officers, the wife of one of the officers who was killed, worked here at the courthouse. So it is a case that has deep, if you will, deep roots into the Waukesha County legal system. But it's now somewhat of the stellar case, the keystone case, and looking at issues such as this. But the Attorney Cotton contrasted the conduct of Mr. Randall in all of his situations with Ms. Geyser's conduct. And I think that's a relevant analysis for the court to have heard and for the court to consider. There is a difference between how Randall conducted himself and how Ms. Geyser has conducted herself during the time period that she's been in custody. One of the aspects of the case, and it's
No, that's Jamie clicking her mouse.
Sorry, I'm
apparent,
trying
but
to
yet it
get out of
somewhat
work.
needs to be restated, is that the offense in this matter occurred when the defendants and the victim were children. They were 12 years old. The adult offense, no doubt, but still happened when they were children. It's happened in 2014. It's about 10 and a half years, a little more than 10 and a half years from the date of the incident. So people the victim has grown up, the defendants have grown up, things have changed from the standpoint of the chronology and age of the parties. In cases such as this, we never want to lose contact and forget the victim that's involved. This is a terrible, brutal offense. There's no doubt about it. It's a nasty set of situations. I went back, and at the time that the court made its initial decision of commitment, the parents of both the father and the daughter of the victim wrote letters to the court that described the status, basically, of what was in existence in February of 2018 with regard to their daughter. And those type of factors are still clear today. It's 10 years later, but I'm sure that the impact on the victim, on her family, and on everybody involved in the case is still very apparent and real. So we want to be sure the court keeps that in mind in deciding how best to proceed. There's been a lot of discussion in the case. In fact, it's a critical part of really understanding and analyzing what's happened in the matter, is that the matter was originally came about with the diagnosis of schizophrenia, and that was a lot of discussion at the time of the initial hearings. Childhood schizophrenia is an unusual diagnosis, not common, still not common today, but it still is one that was made and was clarified and established at the time of the hearing. That was the diagnosis that brought about actually the plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect and the court's ultimate findings. There have been changes in from the Ms. Geyser standpoint and how she's explained what happened, and that comes into whether the Slender Man, the hallucinations and all that went on with that actually happened, or did she make them up? That's been part of the testimony going back to 2021 and 2022. I'm satisfied that those change in views and circumstances existed, but I'm also satisfied that the treating, and I'm talking about the treating doctors, not the examining doctors, that I'm satisfied that the treating doctors have addressed that issue and have worked with her with regard to that. I'm satisfied that the examining doctors, Dr. Collins, Lundbaum, and Robbins, all address those matters as well. And I'm satisfied through the manner in which they've addressed Ms. Geyser's change in position, if you will, or modification of position is something that's can be reasonably explained under the circumstances. I don't find that she was, from the standpoint, attempting to fabricate a position to get a more favorable position with the court. Now, I raised that issue with Dr. Lundbaum as I wanted to hear what she had to say specifically about that. But I'm satisfied that that is not a factor that I'm considering in deciding how to proceed. I am considering that the diagnosis develops over time, as it does with many people, and I accept Dr. Lundbaum's statements that because of the nature of childhood schizophrenia, it's the nature of the diagnosis, the nature of its history, that it would develop and change over time is not unusual. I accept that. I didn't question was my questions that brought it up with Dr. Lundbaum. I didn't question Dr. Collins or Dr. Robbins about that topic. I was satisfied with what Dr. Lundbaum said with regard to that status, and I'm still satisfied with that. I'm satisfied that one of the interesting, at least I find it interesting and significant with regard to what's gone on in this case and apparently other cases, is that if you're at Winnebago and in a treatment program for a serious offense such as this, Winnebago will only take you so far. And at a certain point, they won't take you any further. Now, that surprised me when this first came up earlier in the case, that I would have thought that the state institution would carry on the treatment and take it to its fullest extent. Whatever the next step is, they would take the next step from the standpoint of improving the mental health of the patient at a minimum, as opposed to public safety, but that's not what they do. At the stage that Ms. Geyser is at, she can't go any further as far as treatment is concerned. And keep in mind that as far as being able to walk around and do stuff, she can walk around at the institution, but if she goes off institution, she always has somebody there. So an escort. Now, to me, in order to be able to really adequately be, if you will, to the extent somebody can be rehabilitated, they have to be able to exist in the community somehow and be able to grow up, if you will. And that isn't going to happen with regard to Ms. Geyser at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. That's a factor. I don't want to say it's determinative of the decision I've reached, but it's a factor that I've considered as to public safety is really the underlying key to the case. And part of public safety is that Ms. Geyser becomes safe or safer. That was clear in the analysis from the Randall case. It's public safety is tied into the safety of the defendant, of the patient. In Randall, it's clear that Randall never was able, I don't know what his status is currently. He's still in custody. He's still within the program, but that he's never developed that sense when people trust him to be safe. And that's the people that treat him. That was back in 2011. I'm assuming it's still the case today. That's the factor that I looked at in contrasting Ms. Geyser's situation with Mr. Randall's situation. I looked at Ms. Geyser's her role in working through treatment and supervision at Winnebago, and find I'm satisfied she's done what she's supposed to do. She appears to have a good attitude. Attitude is important. It doesn't solve all issues, but it's certainly an important part of being able to be rehabilitated and being able to function within the community. As although we focus on public safety and whether she continues to be a danger, part of that is if in theory she would be released at some point, she has to be able to function within the community on a safe basis, and people, while she may always be subject to some type of notoriety, there she is, you know, that type of thing, like the scarlet letter almost. And
Just like Sarah
there
Boone.
has to be, people have to be able to relax and know that if she walks past them on the street that they're safe. That's what the safety evaluation is, the public, the risk to dangerousness is about in the case, as far as I read it, as far as I read what the statute's concerned. That's because, and especially with regard to looking at the Randall rationale, there, and Randall stands for the proposition that I can ignore all of the reports and I can find that she's dangerous simply based upon what happened on May 31, 2014, because of the nature of the offense and the nature of what happened. That's, if I can make a decision simply upon that. I'm concerned about making a decision simply upon that because it somewhat flies in the face of what the evidence is with regard to Ms. Geyser's treatment program or regimen. And what I'll phrase it as her success at being treated at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. One of the activities I engaged in when I took the break was to read my decision from April 11, 2024. I had not read it before. I just, attorneys at Packowitz referenced it, so I thought I should go back and read what I said back then. And the my comments with regard to the nature of the case still to a great extent stand true at this point. However, there have been changes in the case and how I view it based upon what's been presented. And I do rely to some extent upon the reports of Drs. Lundholm and Collins. Dr. Robbins writes a good report, but it's a brief report. And it's almost a flow of consciousness of how he views the case based upon his involvement. Drs. Lundholm and Collins go into more, if you will, more depth, more nitty gritty of what the situation is and how things developed, how attitudes developed, and what the status of the matter is today. So when I read that and read those reports, it gives me a further insight into what the status is of Ms. Geyser's status with regard to the case. The what the record shows that she's done well. She's hasn't had rule violations. Laws are always about rules. Lawyers are always about rules. Courts are about rules. And she's followed the rules. She's done well. Good, I mentioned attitude, positive attitude. Those are all good things to have. Does that overcome what happened back in 2014? It may never overcome what happened in 2014. But the question isn't about what happened in 2014. It's about current assessments of dangerousness to herself, to the public, or a danger to the destruction of property. In evaluating the matter, I take into account, as I indicated at the beginning of my decision, that she's been in custody since she was 12 years old. She's gone through a number of evaluations and treatments. Evaluations and treatment that each one of I think both Dr. Lundborn and Dr. Collins refer to all of the reports that they looked at. That doesn't always count all of the doctor notes that are involved at Winnebago. To a great extent, the November 7, 2024 letter that was signed by Ms. Parnell. So summarizes all of those medical records and notes and doctors' notes and observations with regard to Ms. Geyser. So I take that into account in deciding how best to approach the case. The it's, you know, the aspect of dangerousness is difficult because we never know. I mean, I could claim to be the smartest person in the world and make decisions, and I don't know what's going to happen with regard to this case or many other cases, or what's going to happen tomorrow with regard to my cold. You just simply don't know. So you have to be cognizant of the if you will, the fragileness of the type of decisions that the court makes and that the court looks at. I note that in Dr. Collins' decision on page, she wrote a long report, 37 pages, single-spaced paragraphs, so it's easier to read. But on page 37 of her report in the second paragraph, and I think Attorney Zepakowitz referred to this during his argument. While it is, I'm quoting now, while it is this examiner's opinion to a reasonable degree of professional certainty that facts weigh in favor of Ms. Geyser's petition and placement on conditional release at this juncture, I also recognize considerations which may give pause. The issue of Ms. Geyser's diagnosis enigma is one such consideration. Ms. Geyser now reports that she's never experienced auditory hallucinations or psychotic symptoms otherwise. The etiology of her historic psychotic symptoms remains unclear, especially in light of the fact that she has not been prescribed antipsychotic medication in recent years and has nevertheless not evidently demonstrated a reoccurrence of psychotic symptoms. She warrants ongoing close clinical monitoring and treatment, in part to support her transition to the community through, as importantly, to effectively and efficiently determine and respond in the event of any reoccurrence of symptoms of a major mental illness. I read that paragraph in full because that's an important consideration, and it caused the court pause with regard to how to evaluate circumstances. However, when I read the entire report by Dr. Collins and Dr. Lendo, as well as what they testified to, I'm satisfied that those are caveats for the court to be concerned with and to evaluate in a way with regard to the issue of dangerousness. It's not necessarily a veto over the release on a supervised release petition. So I'm, in reviewing all of the reports and the matters, I'm satisfied that under the circumstances that the court's going to grant the release. I'm satisfied that by clear and convincing evidence that under the current set of circumstances, Ms. Geyser does not pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself or others, or of serious property damage. Now, when I make that finding, I take into account what happened. I take into account the dangerousness of what happened back in 2014. I take into account, though, what's happened since then, in particular in the last 6 months. I take into account the opinions of the doctors, but in particular, and it's been an important analysis for the court to make, that as the Randall decision talks about, that the ultimate determination of dangerousness requires a careful balancing of society's interest in protection from harmful conduct against the acquittee's interest in personal liberty and autonomy. In looking at the Randall case and of what happened in Randall and what the circumstances were of Randall, when I contrast Randall to Geyser, there's a tremendous difference in the rationale for rejecting supervised release in that case, in Randall's case versus in this matter. When I weigh that dangerousness concept and I come back to what happened and what the progress has been, Ms. Geyser doesn't fall into the same category as Mr. Randall in his petition for release and the denial of that release. So on that standpoint, I'll grant the petition so ordered. I'll order that the matter be referred to the department. And let me just look at the statute. 971-17 4E. If the court finds the person is appropriate for the conditional release, the court shall notify the Department of Health Services, the Department of Health Services and the County Department in Waukesha County shall prepare a plan that identifies the treatment and services, if any, that the person will receive in the community. The plan shall address the person's needs, if any, for supervision, medication, community support, residential services, vocational
Good
services,
Lord.
and alcohol.
He's going to die before he gets through this.
The plan shall be presented to the court for approval within 60 days after the court's finding that the person is appropriate for conditional release. Dr. Lundholm in her report, and I think it's begins on page 15. That begins on page 16 through 17, lists 11 factors that she'd want considered. I want those all considered by the department as they determine, excuse me,
Sir,
as they determine what the conditional release plan
just
should be.
get some water.
Excuse me, let me just have a moment.
Yeah. Mute yourself, get some water.
Yeah.
This area, I took into account Mr. Attorney Zapakowitz's argument about what do we know about the future. Well, the way the statute's set up, as I read it, is that the future is determined by the release plan. We only get to the release plan. Excuse me, if the court
He's making
grants the
me
release
nauseous
for the reasons
by
stated.
doing
I've
that.
granted it. I'm satisfied now that the fleshing out of what that means, supervised group home, group facilities, that Dr. Robbins discussed and what Dr. Collins discussed as well, are now subject to the state and further subject to my approval when it comes back. So although I grant the supervised release, I did take into account the argument that Attorney Zapakowitz made with regard to what's known and unknown. I'm satisfied that the system we operate under 971-17 takes that into mind and encompasses it in the work that the county, that the State Department does with the county. On that basis, then we'll schedule a hearing within 60 days. My anticipation is that the report from the state, the conditional release plan, will be submitted before then. So what I'm going to look is to have let's schedule a hearing within 60 days.
Oh my Lord.
I'd say an hour. We'll just move other things, just fit it in.
No, Rachel, she. Oh my God, he's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
excuse me, my cough.
Rachel K is
No.
asking a question. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not in prison now, and she will not be in prison after this. She is in the supermax of mental health institutes right now in Waukesha County. They have no other things to offer her, and String says she's stable and in a good development. She will now be transferred to another mental health institute that is on a lower level, where she will still be monitored. She will still be having to participate in treatment, medication, and having some jobs and stuff like that. But she will be in a more, I don't know if you can call it relaxed set. It's just with a lesser degree of security around her. But it's trying to transitioning her back into society. So they didn't believe they could do more for her at the Winnebago Institute, and now she'll be put in a group home and try to be transitioned back in society at some point. No timeline. In 60 days, the state will present their treatment plan for her.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah, and she was never she had not guilty by reason of mental defect, so she was never convicted. Like, this wasn't a criminal offense.
Yeah, it's
even
not a
though
criminal
what she
case.
did was criminal. Yeah.
Yeah, the handcuffs have pink fuzz on them on the new place.
I want to be sure the report comes in. 60 days would take us to about March 9th. That's maybe at the end of February. Look to have the report submitted
Attempted.
within, say, a month.
But again, she was found not guilty by way of mental defect. So that's why we've been discussing this all day long, because at one point there's the punishment, and the other side there's, well, she was sick, so she. But I didn't feel this is the right decision. Jamie does, so Jamie will have to answer for it.
Well,
Today,
I didn't necessarily say that. I was just arguing
by
for it
beginning of
because
February.
we have to
February
rehabilitate
9th.
at some point.
Talk to the handcuffs, the face won't listen.
Goodness.
Yeah, but that's when they're mentally ill.
I can make that work.
It's just
I was going to suggest that Friday that week, if that's available for everybody, but I can be flexible.
Well, see, she's not hanging out anywhere I'm going. I mean,
Third is good for me.
she might be actually the dollar store. They
Better
said she
than
goes to the
6
dollar
or
store.
7.
Okay, let's just do the 3rd in the morning.
Attorney Nicolai.
That's fine. The 3rd is fine.
Okay, 9 o'clock.
Sure.
Honestly, I'm not too worried about this person.
So
I look
I'm
like I could take her
I'm
anyway, so.
anticipating that we'd have
And she wouldn't convince me to walk into a
proposed
woods
conditional release
anytime
plan
soon.
by, I'll say by February 14th.
Yeah, I hope they have some
Now, that may
GPS
change the
monitoring
state.
on her.
We'll do what they have to do, but I want to be sure we have plenty of time to evaluate it.
Well, they're not just scheduling now, so that has nothing to do
With
with it.
that, then Ms.
Well, I
Geyser will be
think they said she
remanded
was
to the
like
sheriff
working
and
little
returned
jobs or
to
something. So
the
that's where she
Winnebago
was getting
Mental
money, I
Health
guess.
Institute.
Or probably from her family.
Thank you.
So ordered.
I'll be in touch.
Court will be in recess.
And the other girl's already out already, so.
Yeah, she's out. She's been out for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Jamie, just to show
But-
you that you don't have to eat horrible Danish cake. These are meat pies. Don't look at them. You can get banoffee salty caramel banana cream pie, sky high lemon meringue pie, daddy's girl cookie and cream chocolate pie, the New York cherry cheesecake, the grandfather apple cranberry vanilla custard pie, your mama apple cinnamon pie, Scout's honor fudge brownie pie, blueberry bread pie with melted lemon glaze, and then some chocolate coffee cake in a. Yeah, we don't want that.
Well,
And
let's just say I would probably prefer a meat pie. What do we got in meat pies?
well, I was just going to the Cheesecake Factory, but
Oh, Oh, cheesecake too. Okay.
I got
'Cause I'm
everything
not
you
much of
need.
a pie person. I like cake, I like meat, and I like cheesecake.
Roasted chicken and thyme pie.
Oh my
3
God,
cheese
that looks
broccoli
delicious.
cauliflower pie.
Nah.
Beef and cheddar mash pie.
Ooh,
Spicy
that sounds.
bourbon pulled pork pie. Chicago style Italian sausage pizza pie.
Ooh,
Bacon cheddar and sage bread pie.
bacon cheddar. Yum.
And then you have the best cheesecake in town. They have, what do they have? Best-selling cakes, the Oreo cake, the cookie cake, the chocolate ganache cake, plain with berries cake, raspberry cream
Okay.
cake, mixed berry yogurt cake, key lime, passion fruit, pistachio, Oreo strawberry,
Mm.
apple cinnamon.
Well, let's not try to put fruit in delicious pie, like, or cakes. Leave it alone. I just want the Oreos, the chocolates.
You can also have a cupcake if you want one.
That's probably
Oh,
best.
that's for weddings.
Oh.
We're not having a wedding.
No.
Banana chocolate caramel pie, Bastogne lemon cake, Black Forest cake with alcohol in it. That's for Irish. Blueberry cream cake, brownie black currant vanilla cake, brownie blueberry vanilla cake, brownie cherry vanilla cake, brownie mixed berry vanilla cake, brownie pecan, brownie raspberry vanilla cake, brownie strawberry vanilla, caramel salty cake, carrot cake, chocolate coconut cake, chocolate mint cake, cookie cake, Ferrero Rocher cake, Irish coffee cake with alcohol, that's for Irish, lemon curd, lemon meringue, licorice caramel, that's for Jamie, mango and passion fruit,
Right,
passion fruit,
Charles?
pecan caramel, raspberry cream cake, and rhubarb cake. Oh, there's another page. Riz Salamon cheesecake. That's a special Christmas one. Probably not when you're here. Strawberry cream cake, tiramisu cake with alcohol. That's for Irish. Toffee cake, vanilla black currant, vanilla blueberry, vanilla cherry, vanilla mixed berry, vanilla raspberry, vanilla strawberry. So don't you say you can't get no cheesecake in Denmark.
Is it good though?
I don't eat cheesecake, so how would I know?
I might have to try them all
Yeah.
and critique them.
How much US is a Danish $5.99? That's $90.
$90.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Hey, Denmark is expensive, and Copenhagen is very expensive. We are
Yeah.
the most expensive country in Europe, 45% over the medium.
I don't like it.
No, me neither. But
Where's your dollar stores?
well, I can take you to Lidl.
What is that?
That's like Aldi.
Oh,
What's that penis on your mic? It's my little dog that I got as a Christmas gift.
who said was that? It's a little dog statue.
At some point, it's not. It's not. It's what you think you see.
Oh my goodness.
Denmark is expensive. You should come to Sweden. Well, there's a problem. Swedish people live in Sweden. I had Pepperidge Farm chocolate cake the other day. Does that count? I don't know what that is.
What is it? Pepperidge Farm chocolate? Oh, the
I-
chocolate cake. Yes.
Pepperidge is, or where his farm is located.
Pepperidge Farm is pretty good.
I really like a good rhubarb cake or porridge made of rhubarb. That's good. It's
Porridge?
acidic. Yeah, when you boil fruit down into kind of like a porridge, or I don't know what you would call it, but I like that. What currency do you need to pay the tolls on the bridge into Denmark? Danish monies.
Val, I was thinking that he's talking about Pepperidge Farm. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I'm sorry, Crystal.
What?
She wants cake now, and she didn't.
Everyone, yeah, get your cake. Now I want some too. I don't have
Yeah,
any.
want to try rhubarb? Never had it. It's good. It's a little bit sour. It's well,
No,
it depends, but I like it.
Iris, stay away. It's all about the chocolate, the vanillas, the cookies. Leave the pies. These are the fruits for the healthy people.
Yes, Danish kroner. That's the monies we use. But I had the dang muffin in my hand. Yeah, I really like rhubarb. Oh, one of the best things you can do is, do you do that way? No, of course you don't. In Denmark, in, Mio and that crap that people put in their water.
Yeah.
We have something we call saft instead, where you take like strawberries or rhubarbs or something and boil it down so it becomes like a kind of like a syrup, and you can add that to water to give it some flavor. Rhubarb is really good on a hot day. Ice cubes, rhubarb, you have that tangy thing. It really refreshes you. Wow. You should have more of that.
People make it all the time, rhubarb pie and stuff. Strawberry rhubarb pie, I've heard of that one. That's like really popular around the holidays.
Oh,
Never tried it though.
Is it the exchange rate that high now? I thought it was like 6.5. Yuck. Yeah, but if you use a Swedish, that's the exchange rate is 10 or something, because your money is worth nothing. So at least my tater has cheese and sour cream on it, I guess. Ugh.
Yeah, like it's a 4th of July. Like normally people get rhubarb pie and strawberry rhubarb pie around like the holidays in the summer, like 4th of July and stuff.
I like it. I like tangy stuff. You're crossing euros and into Danish. Well, euros is one Danish. No, 1 euro is 7.5 Danish. So it's somewhere that like that. Do I make meatballs? No, we make frikadella. That's what we call our meatballs, which is the correct meatballs, not the Swedish ones.
I love meatballs. I should have made meatballs for dinner.
Oh, and by the way, FD Food Fairy have told me that I should treat both of you like children. So when you say that looks gross, I should look at you and say, at least taste it before you say you don't want to. Do we have an IKEA? Yes, but not in the middle of Copenhagen, because they are big, so that will cost way too much. Copenhagen is very expensive by all standards. But I have an IKEA. I should go to IKEA and just walk through it and show you hell. That should be my next stream. Just see me die from all the Swedishness.
What? Oh, you're gonna kill him, Scott.
Yeah, I haven't had a good one since my mom died. That's one of those recipes only your mom can make.
What is a Danish meatball? What is What is
Well,
like? Is it
it's a mix of pork and beef if
okay?
you want to do
Which
the right
sounds
one.
good already.
Then you chop some onion, chuck them in there.
Mhm.
My mom liked to have them a little chunky. Other people just puree them. Then you throw in some eggs and some flour and some different spices, and then you Swedish meatballs you boil. We fry ours on the pan, and they are a little bigger. And when they're hot, you eat them with like some taters and some sauce and stuff like that. And then the next day, you slice them up and put it on your råbrød, which is our bread, open face sandwiches, as some savages call it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just to bind it together. You put some flour in there. Of course, you boil them, Pernilla. I've seen them.
Yeah, I don't use flour in my meatballs. I like crushed up pork rinds. But you can do
What?
like breadcrumbs.
We fry or bake our meatballs. They look boiled. Mine was 100% sweet. Some good Swedish meatballs. Her mom's recipe. Just saying, I feel sorry for you.
I love pork rinds. Rage.
You can use breadcrumbs as well, but it's more the flour.
Yeah, panko, breadcrumbs, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will show you that on a piece of rye bread when we meet up on the Scandi meetup. We're going to meet up at, I hope I can get Jamie out of bed as soon as we can meet up at 10. Then we can go shuffle around the inner city and then find a restaurant, have a lunch, and maybe shuffle around some more, take a nap, go out, have a dinner if anyone's still staying there, find a place to have a dinner, and maybe have a beer or two. Not too many because no, you're not flying out on Sundays, but I'll be returning home on Sunday.
Yeah.
No butchers
Oh
up
my
that
God, a
early.
fresh pork rind would
You can
sounds delicious.
show me one butcher who's up at 4 a.m. I work with them. They are lazy people.
Oh, really? I've never actually been to a butcher. We'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, the time change is probably gonna hit me like a ton of bricks, but we'll see.
Yeah, but
Usually I can power through.
I think we're going to do what Iris talked about. We're going to pick you up at the airport and find you a hotel. There's probably a check-in at around 2. You go back, get a couple of hours sleep, and we can go out and have a pivo and a bit to eat at night, and then Saturday we can go out and meet people.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well, it's an overnight flight for me, so I'm gonna have to
yeah,
try
but
to.
you'll still be busted because you've been sitting in a crappy seat and
Mhm.
you've been traveling for 10 hours. So probably need to get to the hotel, lay down for a bit, take a hot shower, and become a human again. So it's gonna be fine. And then Saturday we can do the big sightseeing, so I can go home Sunday.
Yep. I'll just need some coffee. I'll be fine.
Yeah. I had a horrible jet lag the last time, no jet lag at all. I didn't get to bed till 3-4 in the morning anyway, but I was still up, ready to go at around 8 in the morning, so I was fine. No, I'm turning 27 in 2 weeks. But still, a hot shower and just 2 hours of sleep will fix a lot of things. And then make sure to get to bed early on Friday. Don't go with Iris out and try and You know what she's gonna do. She's gonna say, "Hey, are you a Viking? You can raid me." Oh.
I kind of want to just go watch that happen. It'd be funny. Yeah, I'm the younger than all of them, and I'm the biggest wimp.
I'm 27.
Yeah. I'm only 19.
But yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be me.
Yeah, and I'm glad it'll still be like a nice chilly, but not too chilly.
Yeah, it's gonna be well, it's early March, so it'll probably be wet and cold.
Yeah, I can handle that. Yeah, let's put bets on if I want Iris to get a date so bad. That'd be hilarious. How many phone numbers will she get?
Are you asking what 27 Fahrenheit is in Celsius? That's 2.7 degrees minus in Fahrenheit. But in but
I
normal temperatures in March is 5 degrees Celsius. So it's nice weather. It's almost shorts weather.
Yeah, what is 5 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
41.
Yeah, that's shorts weather. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You just need a hoodie and a pair of long pants and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wear on a daily basis. So
Iris, what do you think about 41 degrees, Irish?
she
Nine,
thinks that will
9?
be the death of her. She said she's gonna wear all the parkas. I said she's crazy.
It's gonna be fine. 41 degrees, that's almost summer.
I know.
We are more temperate because we have the Gulf Stream going up near to us, so we are actually quite hot compared to how northern we are. Yeah, 41 degrees, 90 humidity, and windy.
It is
That's
22 degrees here right now, and I am living it up.
check Discord, Jamie. The rest of you who are not checking Discord because everyone just left. Bye. I just had 20 people jump off.
Yeah, they're probably ready to make dinner.
Yeah, 69 giggity. That's 20 degrees. That's what I run my house at.
69 degrees is like tank top weather. Get out of here, ma'am.
That's what my house is 20 degrees, is 69, 70 degrees hot.
Yeah,
It's
it's 60
fine.
in my house right now, and I'm doing just fine.
Yeah, I'm well, 60 is a little too cold for me, but
Oh,
I got cold feet. But I
I
don't
have
have
slippers on.
yeah, you have 4 blankets on as well.
I have a thin sweatshirt, some pants, and some slippers, but I'm fine.
No, I'm not turning 28. I'm 27 this year.
Yeah.
27. 2 weeks, meaning I have to go out. When I've been at Retro Dance tomorrow, I'll go out. I'll see if I can find some Lego or some candy or something to make another giveaway.
I can understand everybody hating it because I don't know. I lived in Michigan my whole life. We got it all. I'm so used to it.
Yeah, but again, we know when it's cold. The only thing you have to make sure is don't get the wind. Just have to stay outside as long as you don't have don't get wet and don't have any way that the wind can get near your skin. Then you're fine. It's no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, of course, I put in my year.
His Tinder profile. Delete that already.
No. Brandon paid me $10. So I can't wait till people are asking, why are you writing in English? Because I lost it. Well, I got paid. I am a whore. I'm a grifter.
Yeah. We have the same weather, Scott. Pretty much the same seasons and everything. We experience all the seasons.
I couldn't live in Florida. Humid and hot. Ugh. I couldn't do it. That's just Tennessee was humid enough for me. Those days where you walk out and that was not even. And he wants me to come back in June this year. I'm gonna die, Jamie.
You may.
No, June.
Yeah. But you may pass away.
Oh,
If you thought May was bad, then June it gets worse.
stay in air conditioned. And yeah, well, I like being outside. No, he has a nice little patio you can sit out and just enjoy life and watch. I had a little squirrel buddy I was watching every morning. He ran around outside.
Aww.
So yeah, that was nice. But I don't have anything planned for tomorrow. If anything shows up, we'll do that. Other than that, we might start Monday. We'll do the Jason Chen case that is supposed to start Monday. Stabulation in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Talking about Tennessee. Sequestered jury. Gonna be interesting. The jury should have been picked and sequestered from. I actually think he said no, sending them home Friday and then they go to Chattanooga Sunday. So that should start Monday. Yeah, that was Vegas Rick.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But that's what we're gonna do. If we find something tomorrow, I'll do something tomorrow. Saturday will be the first appearance of Sue if she's not cut off by a winter storm. The rest of you, go out there, have a great evening. Brandon, I hope Notre Dame will treat Penn like an unfaithful husband and kick their ass.
Is he a Notre Dame fan? Oh boy, Brandon. Did you know their fight song is the same as my high school fight song? I'd never realized it until I watched a game when they were playing Michigan back in the day. And their fight song came on and I was like, cheer, cheer for old Durian High. I was like, no way. It's the same song. Sorry. I'm not a fan of them either.
Jamie hates everyone but the Ohio State University.
What exhibit are you referring to? I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor. All right. 100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor. So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Go
All right, I'm in love.
back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has.
So there-
Everybody has.